If you believe the answer is within an arm's reach, it is. Let me explain what I mean here. This is the closest I've come to in years of getting into kind of a back and forth on social media, on Instagram. But I thought, let's not go down that road. Take a walk. Think about it. Play pros and cons with your point of view and see if in an hour, hour and a half, you still feel the same way. And I took my walk and I came back and I can tell you that I absolutely, unequivocally still feel the same way. And I want to dive into it with you. See, anytime you talk about making the most of what you have, anytime you talk about not being a victim, anytime you talk about always blaming yourself because no one else can fix your life, there's this sort of subtle, unspoken unease. It's hard to almost articulate. How can you tell people in adverse situations to go figure it out, right? Have faith. Go pick up the pieces along the way. You don't know what they've been through. You have no idea, right? There are some people out there in immense pain and suffering. Who are you to advocate for internal strength in an unfair world? Which was basically the crux of that Instagram comment that prompted me to grab the mic and yap a little bit. And in its own unique way, I think it's correct. There's merit to that, right? There's a misfortune that I just can't and don't understand. Look, I grew up and live in the West. The most difficult decision I made today was, do I make my own coffee or do I go to Starbucks? I'm just being real with you. I've always had running water. I have access to food and shelter. I grew up in a middle-class family in the suburbs of LA and then Boston. 2 parents in the home. Always had lunch in my lunchbox going to school. I'm relatively healthy, right? Minus the occasional injury or headache. I don't know what it's like to open my eyes and hope I feel well enough to function that day. That's suffering that I cannot relate to. But I know that regardless of one's pain, this has to be true, right? A choice must be made. Perhaps the most important decision one is presented with, that we are all during those times presented with. And to frame it, I'll start with a quote from Viktor Frankl. He says, to draw an analogy, a man's suffering is similar to the behavior of gas. If a certain quantity of gas is pumped into an empty chamber, it will fill the chamber completely and evenly, no matter how big the chamber. Thus, suffering completely fills the human soul and conscious mind, no matter whether the suffering is great or little. Therefore, the size of human suffering is absolutely relative. What he's saying there is that even though our suffering is not quote unquote equal, and it's certainly not, in our own lives, in our own world, it feels the same, right? Which is a strange thing to even entertain, right? That my suffering or your suffering feels the same as Jeff Bezos' suffering. It's like, how, right? They're vastly different problems, different pains. So I think, long story short, comparing is a fool's errand. We're not here to be judges of who's hurting more or why. No, I think the message is much simpler. When we're in those moments of pain, or look, maybe it's not even moments, maybe it's a continuation, right? For years, someone's been fighting or weren't given a great start. They don't have financial resources, family, friends not around, sick, you name it, right? There are a million things we go through. Question is, do you point out with anger Or do you point in with hope? Do you look to transfer your pain to others or use your internal strength to build what was once not there? And this is the message, by the way, that I've pondered and contemplated over and over and over again. It doesn't matter how I slice it and dice it, that's where I land, right? It's never beneficial to blame. Just like it's always detrimental when others clap along with you like baby seals while you're dodging accountability. It never helps for someone to say, hey, this isn't your problem. This is beyond you. You're helpless. Let's be mad together. Hey, we weren't dealt a good hand. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. Right? That in the short term might feel good because you don't have to fix the problem. You can remove accountability. But in the long term, you are hurting yourself. You are disempowering yourself, disarming yourself. Removing the one thing that can change your life, and that's personal agency. Again, when you're at that rock bottom, you have two options: own it or blame, period. And you can hear that and think, what? It's not my fault he walked out of my life. Hey, I certainly didn't give myself this health problem. Hey, I didn't pick to be born or grow up in this neighborhood. True, check. This is not about blame, and it has nothing to do with blame. It has everything to do with ownership, with empowering yourself. This is about saying, I didn't put myself here, but I sure as hell can take myself there. Not enough people are comfortable with that message, right? From every corner of life, you get the opposite, right? You have politicians saying, hey, son, the deck is stacked against you. You're powerless, but hey, vote for me and I'll help. You have, the media, you have TV showing you tragedy after tragedy, pointing fingers, blaming others, right? Let's make sure people live in fear so they have no control over their own destinations, so they feel small and helpless in a world that's bigger than them. You have social media algorithms, right? Positioning victimhood as currency. Hey, look how marginalized I am. Poor me, right, guys? Clicks, retweets, likes. That's the magic. This way of looking at the world is destroying us. It's destroying us personally. It's destroying our communities. It's destroying the fabric of society, right? You can't have a functioning society with no personal agency or individual accountability. There's just no foundation to build on. Everything starts with the individual. Everything. As the saying goes, no one is coming to save you. No one's coming to fix all your problems, even the ones you didn't create. No one's going to fix a cycle of poverty or crime or obesity. You have to want that. Now, is that complex? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not delusional enough to think that I can solve these things on a microphone. I'm not. But what I can tell you is I see its complexity the same way I see a car is complex. I can't put a car together. There's thousands of parts. But I can tell you with conviction that car is not going anywhere without the engine or motor. Just like your willingness to own the situation, your personal situation, your agency is the engine or motor in your life. You go nowhere without it. There is no vehicle without that ownership. In other words, everything revolves around that phrase, what can I personally do about it? So when you're frustrated with the current moment, or the pieces you were given. And trust me, I can empathize, man. Life is unfair. It's brutally unfair. Remember those two options. I mean, point out, blame, and beg to be saved. Or you can point in and find a way to capture light in darkness. Anytime you want to transfer accountability, you are a thief robbing yourself of your own strength. Anytime someone tells you that the world is the problem and not you, they are a distraction pointing you away from the North Star you need to follow. If you believe the answer is within an arm's reach, you are correct. Because you are that answer. No, I'm not sorry. Sure, I was ignorant back then. No question. But ignorance is not a crime. Ignorance is the foundation that we build upon. You can't be sorry for not knowing. You shouldn't be sorry for not knowing. The only real tragedy is to plant a stake in the ground and call the ignorance home. And no, I'm not sorry that I found myself in places I didn't want to be, doing things that weren't me, talking every day with people who didn't fill my cup or push me forward. But it's not the end of the world when we find ourselves walking down the wrong paths with the wrong people. It's just an invitation to step off and find the right one. In fact, the only real wrong path is the one you continue walking down knowing that it's not for you. And no, I'm not sorry. I was half the person I am now. Half as capable, half as knowledgeable, half as driven. But it's not a bad thing to look around and realize that you can be more. It's not a problem to see the reality you're living and deem it beneath your ideals. That's a beautiful thing. What would be a shame is to never open your eyes and see the possibility. To see now as a permanent fixture, not something you can control, but something you're confined to. That would be a shame. Never be sorry for where you came from. Never be sorry for what you went through. Never be sorry for the hell you're walking through now. And most importantly, never feel sorry for yourself, right? These so-called inconveniences are the bridge to something better. They are the reason you will evolve and grow and expand. Don't be sorry. Be grateful. Be ready for the second act. Excited about what will become of you. See, often we have to find ourselves in the lowest of low places before we learn to ask if there's a better view out there for us. That's just the reality. Sometimes life is about touching the hot stove before learning to avoid it. You're never dumb or less than for finding yourself looking up at an ideal. For saying, hey, there's a delta between where I am and where I want to be, and I can obtain that. You know what one of my greatest strengths has become? It's not earlier mornings or quadruple efficiency, not a biohack or a evolved daily routine. It's learning to be kind to myself. And if that seems fluffy or unimportant, I want you to picture someone never running to, but always running from. always motivated by fear. Endless examples. A mere jog on a summer afternoon was never fast enough. Other content creators, authors, writers, speakers were always better, always further along. Imaginary competition always seemed to move faster, where they were always doing more. I used to call this perpetual state of lack a chip on my shoulder. This is what kept me going, the giant shadow of failure. I can't fail, I can't fail, I can't fail, I won't fail, not me. So I'll do more and I'll push harder. And I'm not sorry about that. In fact, it was probably what I needed for that season of my life. It hardened me up, made me tougher. I think most importantly brought me to where I am today. A sort of inverse position, learning to be just as motivated from a place of abundance. You can run just as ferociously towards something as you can from something. And guess what? When you reach the finish lines, you actually appreciate them. Running not away from what I'm fearful of, but towards what lights me up. True story. Every time my YouTube channel hit some sort of subscriber milestone, for years, I'd get a note from a good friend of mine, Dave, who'd say, "Hey, congrats. Don't forget to celebrate the accomplishment." Every time. And I'd be, grateful for the message. But celebrate, that part I'd kind of overlook. And that's nice, I'd think. But when I started to really understand the importance of that message, I started to see things differently. You have to celebrate. You celebrate because now is the magic. If you can't appreciate now, you will appreciate nothing. Doesn't mean stop, doesn't mean go easier or minimize the destination. It means remember to love the ride because you are, as the saying goes, in the midst of the good old days. Don't wait to be 90 years old to appreciate them. And I'm not, again, sorry that it took me so long to get there. Perhaps that's why I've learned to appreciate this point of view so much. I've seen the inverse. I'm not sorry I spent so much time running away from what I fear and don't want. No, I'm grateful that now I've learned to live in abundance, to run towards what lights me up. Really focusing on each step, finding gratitude in all of it. And of course, it's not always easy, right? There are days where I have to really work to see the value, but when I try, which is the point, I eventually find it. I learned this by stumbling into it. And so in your world, I have a request. Maybe you can frame it as an experiment. What if you completely cut all the sorry stuff? Stopped being sorry for your mistakes. Stop being sorry for the things you aren't happy about or the cosmic injustices you feel have occurred. And what if you started being grateful for the realization that you can change them? You started being appreciative of the fact that you're on your way to something better. Maybe in your context, running from and running to are different. But I'd be willing to bet there's a rearranging that can transform life as you currently know it. And who would have thought, that rearranging is what we come to value most. So don't be sorry about what's occurred or where you are. Be excited. Be grateful. Because life is about to begin. So imagine years from now, way down the road, you're older, sitting on your front porch, kind of fists propped up under your chin, you're staring out and thinking about your life. You're thinking about the decisions you made, the things you did and didn't do. what would you be thinking? What would you change? Would there be regrets? Now, there's a lot of research around this topic, and in one of the most important books written on it by Bronnie Ware talks about the regrets of the dying. And one of them is wishing I had the courage to live a life true to myself. Right, so you're sitting there, you're looking out and you're imagining, what if you acted differently? What if you tried? What if you started? And you go back to that moment where you were looking fate in the eye and you had to make that decision, right? That singular decision. It showed its face repeatedly, but the decision more or less remained the same. It was vulnerability or safety. Choose one. Vulnerability or safety. Safety, that innate desire to not disrupt or challenge the way things are. Even when you know in your core there's more out there. See, safety is the wolf in sheep's clothing. Watching life happen through a window is incredibly safe. But it means you're forfeiting the essence of life in exchange for a front row seat to watch others live it. It means you don't capture that adrenaline that drives us. You don't take part in the emotion that excites us. It means you don't meet the people who would change your life, and you don't see the places that would take what you know of reality and transform it. No, equating safety with contentment is the product of outdated thinking, an outdated operating system. It's indicative of a way of looking at the world that used to be life or death, but now in 2020, in modern day society, it's regret. And the first step in changing something is to become aware of your current circumstance. It's to realize you're not wrong or guilty for thinking small or taking a back seat to fear. That's what humans do. It's our default setting. But it's your fault if you don't do anything to change it. It's your fault if once recognized you don't pick up the pieces and create a different narrative. You know, I always say the most important changes we can make, they're simple. They're not easy, but they are simple. And that road to something new always starts with seeing beyond the confines of the world that you've accepted for yourself. Understanding the reality that dictates your reasoning, thought patterns, and decision-making can change. Because, my friends, if you can remember one thing and one thing only, it's this. Fear is not the enemy. It is the ally you need most. Inaction is the enemy. Doubt is the enemy, not fear. Seneca says we suffer more often in imagination than reality. Mark Twain has says, do the thing you fear most, and death of fear is certain. It's like jumping into a pool on a hot day. You get a second or two of discomfort before you can acclimate into something better. See, people are stronger than they think they are. They are adaptable. They are resilient. But to see this, we must move beyond the stories in our head. So back to that rocking chair, you're thinking back, that fork in the road, and maybe you choose the challenging path, the one that scares you, and maybe you fall flat on your face. But you get up a little smarter, a little better equipped, and you keep going. And maybe you fall and you fail again and again, and then comes the criticism. But you see that maybe criticism doesn't kill you. In fact, it does nothing if you don't let it. and again, you pick yourself up and you carry on. And you pick up some allies along the way. You expand your skill set. You drive towards mastery. And day in, day out, you continue to fall, to trip. But eventually you look back and you see something you haven't seen before. Distance. And you realize you are not the same person you once were. You realize what you have right now, simply through a process of falling and rising again, you have redefined your existence. You've redefined what's possible. You've redefined the people, the places, the things that matter. And it dawns on you that falling, that fear, that the unknown wasn't the problem, that's not scary, it's just part of being better. It's the cost of greatness. You've been looking at things wrong, hiding from exactly the thing you should have been running towards, allowing into your life the very things that held you down, making you think comfort was the goal when it was shackling your feet to the ground and advising that spectating was a good thing. No, not you. And when you sit down on that rocking chair and you look out, thinking of the life you made, let it be one of adventure. The failures that made you stronger, the wandering that unveiled life's beauty, and the ends that became beginnings, because that is the essence of a life truly lived. It was an ordinary run, on my ordinary loop, on an ordinary day, right in the middle of an ordinary week. I rounded the last corner that I'd encounter before finally returning back to the street that I lived on. Beautiful sunny afternoon. I remember the sun bouncing off my skin, the sweat dripping down my face. I was looking ahead, but not really at anything, more so lost in my thoughts. Then out of nowhere, this little butterfly kind of swooped in, appeared right beside me. And it seemed, as it floated through the air, to link its pace with mine, effortlessly gliding. I looked over at it, and back at the ground, over at it again, back at the ground. And for a second, I wondered what it would be like to be one of those flying machines. The ones built for flight, navigating the sky with no restriction. What a feeling that must be. And as I looked over for a third time, it had slipped back into whatever types of things are important to a butterfly on a warm June day, but realized, as I carried forward, alone again, that for a few seconds we were side by side, it in the air and me on the ground. I hung in there with the flying machines. That's right, the creatures with wings designed specifically for flight. I was for a time amongst them. So what truly separated us? See, my whole life I have drawn lines. Lines that separate them from me. From can and cannot, from possible and impossible. There have been times where I saw reality as pre-packaged. Basically as though you get what you get. Factory, stock, out of the box. It took a long time to see what I wanted, and instead of saying, hey, must be nice, or they have it made, to instead ask, how can I reverse engineer that outcome? What do I need to do now to get what is ultimately available. Because it's very available and it's very real. Just because you are not built like those flying machines doesn't mean you can't run alongside them. Join their ranks. Become one of them. The thing is, instead of drawing walls and building parameters, you have to give yourself permission to adapt and evolve. I was thinking about this the other day as one of my best friends was sharing some of the work he does with his real estate portfolio. He was talking about some of the lessons learned on social media, and it was met with resentment, disdain. You have X, I don't. You make Y, I don't. You came from Z, I didn't. And I read the comments, I just shook my head and thought, they don't know. They don't know he grew up on a farm in Michigan, spending a long time working for less than minimum wage. They don't know that he put himself through college. They don't know that he took out a loan, having no clue what he was doing, and learned how to renovate a home by himself. See, here's what he didn't do. He didn't point up and say, wow, look how free they are. Must be nice. No, he asked, how do I run alongside them? I am not an observer. I am a flying machine. Because the truth is, we can do so much, become so much, once we've erased the mental lines that we've drawn over the years. Once we give ourselves permission to join that little segment of reality we've deemed to be ideal but have yet to walk towards. Nothing happens to the ordinary moments, the ordinary days or weeks or months, until you realize ordinary is just a label you've been placing on the pathway to extraordinary. Everything you need is there, except your past willingness to walk through it. And today is a new day. You will take to the sky in your own life when you stop drawing lines around everything you want and compartmentalizing it as not for you, and instead run alongside the life you want as though it was already yours. Life is not a game of those who are and those who aren't. It's a game comprised of those who will and those who won't. Those who see how they can and those who see how they can't. You can wish, hope, and watch time fly by, or you can join the ranks of the flying machines that leave all that behind and take to the sky. What is the difference? When I think back to the first time I deviated from my comfort zone, my routine, I lost the certainty in my life. And as much as I wanted to go back, I remember telling myself one more day, just one more day, until someday became the current day, and that made all the difference. Day one, starting my company, I remember turning the camera on and feeling so lost saying words into a microphone that I almost didn't press record. But I did. Until one day I realized not only was it bearable, it was my purpose. The vehicle that transported my thoughts to the world, and that made all the difference. During the times when some of the projects I invested the most time and energy into flopped, I remember almost saying, this isn't for me. But I kept creating. I kept creating until I found that intersection of what I love and what adds value to the world, and that made all the difference. What's crazy is how small a decision that difference seems in the moment, how insignificant the decision feels as one stands and looks out from their doorway. The difference between going and not going, stepping out or staying in, making the move or waiting one more day. That difference is sometimes disguised in a cloak of triviality, but do not be fooled. The little decision to move forward, to hang on when your ego is screaming at you to just let go, walk away, find some semblance of comfort and predictability. Those decisions to endure in the moments of hardship are what we come to look back on as the turning points that reshaped and redefined life as we know it. The courage required to make the call, release the video, register the business, send the message, reconnect with that loved one, deviate from what your friends are doing. All those things, they may seem small enough now to spend a minute or two thinking about before moving on to our routines and what we are comfortable doing. After all, it's easy to disregard the small things. But the acorn that becomes the oak tree is small. We must, along with the current reality, see the potential in what those things become. And sure, there are times where the present and the ideal are so different that it seems almost incomprehensible. But how do we get there? We get there by making the little decisions that will ultimately make the greatest difference. You are always one decision away from that evolution. So next time you find yourself looking down at the step in front of you, the step you know in your soul is the right step, remind yourself, yes, it sure would be easy to walk away here. It sure would be easy to turn back. Yeah, it's just one tiny step. But in totality, it's exponentially more than that. It's the lifeblood of your new reality. The water to your sea, the oxygen to your lungs, the crossroads in front of you will be, with your permission, the beginning of something larger than life. It will ultimately be the difference. There's an African proverb that states every morning a gazelle wakes up and knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. And every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up and knows it must run faster than the slowest gazelle or it will starve. It doesn't matter whether you're a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you'd better be running. Because stagnation is losing. Because wishing is a sealed fate. Because immobility is regret. As David Goggins says, you are either getting better or you are getting worse. And in a world comprised of no finish lines, that really simplifies the picture, doesn't it? Because this has nothing to do with yesterday, or the self-defeating stories you used to tell yourself. It's about what reality can become. And the best news you'll ever hear is that the steps that brought you to right now, they are not the same steps that will carry you forward. Every single sunrise is a chance to chase down that which sets your soul on fire. Lion or gazelle, day or night, it is never too late to become what you have never been, to rewrite your story. Not for the doubters or the naysayers, but for you. See, they'll never get it. They'll never understand that your progress is your happiness, why you'd endure the depths of hell twice to be 5 seconds faster, a little better, to build a little higher. It's not nuance, it is survival, woven into your DNA, and just as much a part of you as the heart in your chest. See, today is a currency, the most valuable entity you possess. Clay where dreams are molded, light that turns unknowns into outcomes, impossibles into stepping stones. It's why each step is so precious, because each one is a bridge to a part of you yet to be explored. See, Nietzsche said it best: one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. It is why we build these metaphorical arenas, because without them, there are no dragons to slay, there are no mountains to climb or armies to conquer. It is from chaos that order is born. Every crack of the sword brings understanding. When the sun comes up, there is no wishing for a better world. There is creating in yourself the one who will make it better, the one who will lead himself and others, who will find amidst the horizon the existence of a world within.
Hello, 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 and welcome. Can you believe it is a new year? So, who's up for our challenge? So, we've got a really exciting challenge ahead the next 5 days. This is one of my favorite things that I do all year round, and that's that we run this challenge for the next 5 days. So, where are you all coming from? Come on, let's get in the room. Let's find out where everyone is coming from. I can see Richard has already responded. But it's always great for me just to know where is everyone, where are you all coming from in the room. Let me stop my share so you can see me properly. And to just see, so we got Pretoria, we got Joburg, welcome Alex, we got the UK, Kimberley, Ireland, Porthcawl, South Wales, Mauritius, Christchurch, Wellington, Gordons Bay, Hart Bay, New Zealand. Wow. Okay. We got a lovely mix. I hope you all had an incredible festive season. I must admit, I had an amazing time. The weather was amazing. I had all my family here. And as my son said yesterday, it probably was his best Christmas ever. So, that's a good way of summing it up, I think, in terms of that whole process. Now, we've got an exciting, Lichtenberg, Dubai, Springbok, Uganda, Gaborone. Wow, we really do have a Brisbane. Sure, nice to see such a beautiful array of everyone from all over the world. So, my question to you, we've got an exciting 5 days ahead of us. And by the end of the 5 days, we're going to walk away with an investor strategy sheet. So this is my commitment to you in terms of this investor strategy sheet. And, a lot of people talk about planning. This is the time of the year where people do New Year's resolutions. Quite a few of you are on holiday, some of you first day back at work. And we always say to ourselves, we had a big debate at the beginning of last year. Should we start this now in the second week of January? And we actually got phenomenal feedback and results for people a year ago. And so we decided to do it again. And the reason being is that it's a great time of the year. Before you kind of get into the rush and the chaos of the year, get started, invest in yourself, figure out what do I want? How am I going to set myself up for success? And so the next week is going to be a blend of knowledge. There's going to be some inspirational stuff. There's going to be some personal development. But most importantly, the objective is that you're going to walk away with a plan. So my strong recommendation is that over the next 5 days, you commit to these sessions. They are 5 mornings in a row, or 5 afternoons, 5 evenings, depending on where you are in the world. If you can't make a day, then just watch the recording. We put the recording out every single day, and you can watch it, you can catch up. And I find that there's tremendous momentum in actually just staying on track every day, because I don't know if you're anything like me, where I sign up and I say, oh, I'll watch the recording one day, and I just never do. I actually sort of lie to myself in terms of that process. So I have a question for you. Who's up for an incredible year? You know, I'm not going to use the cliche because everyone's using it, of 2025 thrive, 2020 thrive, or whatever it is. But yeah, just write in there, you know, who's feeling pumped in terms of an incredible year. Susanna Kennedy and I talk a lot about abundant 2025. And I just really get the feeling that there's a lot of people in our community. I can see a lot of names, a lot of mastermind members are here, where we've been doing a lot of work for a long time. And this is all about setting ourselves up for success. And I can see that Glenn is, Soraya is, Susanna is, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Kayla, Christelle, Max, Leisha, Gaynor, Maureen. So I think what's really important here, why is it only going to hosts and panelists? Let's just see there so we can get everyone else. Panelists can chat with everyone. Okay, now you can chat with everyone. Sorry, you don't have to worry. you weren't the only person in the room. Attendees can chat with everyone. Okay, there are. You can all chat with everyone now. I don't know why that setting was wrong. Anyway, you can now, when you see everyone chatting, you can see what everyone else is saying as well. It helps with the energy in terms of the overall process. So I just have the sense for myself, this is going to be an incredible year. Last year was an incredibly difficult year for me. I did a huge amount of personal development work, a whole amount of soul searching and inward work. And it takes that work to be able to set one up for success. What we're going to do now over the next 5 days is we're going to build a foundation for that incredible year. You know, if you want to build a great building, whether it's a house or a 50-story building, you've got to build a great foundation. And so what this is all about, and what the next 5 days is all about, is creating that great foundation in terms of that process. So should we get started? Who's ready? Are you ready for an exciting journey over the next 5 days? I must admit, this is my best way to start the year. I get to do what I love the most. I get to share. I get to live in my purpose and my passion. And it's such an awesome way just to kind of get going and get the energy going in terms of where it is. So I want to share with you a video to get started. And it's the essence of who we are and what we do and why we do what we do. Because I think it's always really important if you want to know kind of who someone is and what they do and why they do it. So just give me 2 seconds here. Where's my video? It's gone now. Cool video, eh? I love that video. Just sort of sums up the essence of what we do and why we do it. So, who enjoyed the video? Yes, I'm going to ask for lots of interaction. I think it's a great way to kind of get you in the room, to be chatting, to kind of get a sense of your energy. Again, I know that people are back and they're checking their WhatsApps and their emails and their social media and everything in between. And so I am focusing on getting you in the room in terms of where we're at. So, what is day one all about? Day one is about understanding diversification. This is about unlocking financial protection and freedom and the power to diversification. That's what it's all about. And many of you have heard this story before, but I want to start with a story. And it's when I went to Necker Island. So I had the privilege of going and spending 2 weeks on Necker Island with Richard Branson. I know a lot of people normally have celebrity pictures and they're like, they're in a convention center and they have a quick selfie with someone. I actually got to spend 2 full weeks with Richard Branson on his private island in Necker Island. It was one of the most special experiences of my life. And this was him and I, we were going kite surfing. So I can't remember if he challenged me or I challenged him, but it was a race around Necker Island. And it was quite interesting because he was 65 years old at the time and he actually beat me in the race around Necker Island. And the reason I tell this story is that I've spent my whole life trying to put myself in the room where I'm the dumbest, poorest person. So my logic is, if I'm the dumbest, poorest person, I can only get better. And there were 25 people that got invited to Necker Island. Now, they were an incredible group of people. Richard was obviously there, but 24 other people were there as well. And our only homework that we had to do was to bring one life hack. So what was one way that we could get better? What was one way that we could help others make their lives easier, simpler, safer, better, whatever? And when I got home, I was telling my business partner, Shane, about this. And he said, well, Scott, that's really interesting because basically you are a wealth hacker. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, think about it. Like, you've spent the last nearly 3 decades, I think this year will be my 29th year, trying to be a wealth hacker and basically putting yourself in the room where you're the dumbest, poorest person, trying to learn from the best around the world and consistently trying to get there quicker, simpler, and safer. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty awesome concept. So, I'm wearing my work jacket, and that's because for those of you who haven't met me or seen me before, it's kind of expected that you turn up when you're doing a financial presentation and do it in a jacket. But I don't believe in that. And with your permission, I want to take off my jacket because I want to have a bit of fun with you over the next 5 days. And I believe truly that I'm a wealth hacker. I know there's a number of other wealth hackers that are out there. And I'd like to, who else resonates with being a wealth hacker? Someone that is wanting to learn and to grow and to partner with other people, sophisticated people, institutional people, where they can get there quicker, simpler, and safer. They don't have to figure it all out themselves. They can learn from others. And, for me, it's just such a logical thing to do rather than trying to do it all yourself. And so that's why I wear my T-shirt. And I invite you to be a wealth hacker. It's certainly the way to do it. And I didn't even know this concept existed until my business partner, Shane, brought it up. But it's the lesson that I learned from going to Necker Island. And it's the lesson that I wanted to share with you. And it's it's over the next 5 days, I'm going to write, I'm going to give you some gems. And so I strongly, strongly recommend that you have I use my iPad, but I strongly, strongly recommend that you have a notebook and a pen. And one of the first things that I wanted to write down is that the quickest way to get somewhere is through partnership. Now, I'm going to explain myself in a lot more detail, but that's what wealth hackers do. They don't try and figure it all out themselves. They go and find who has already done it, and then they can get there quicker. And that's why I say, Liz said that I love the idea of being the dumbest person in the room. I've always learned that it would be shameful and embarrassing. It's a great reframe. And I think that's the point. It's a rehack. You're right, Liz, in that process, because if I can be the dumbest, poorest person in that room, I can only go up. I can only learn from others. I can only learn from what they've achieved. And most importantly, it can inspire me. I was taught my whole life by my mother, things like money doesn't grow on trees. And, I said, well, I want to own a helicopter one day. And my mother said to me, oh, yeah, but how many children could be fed with that money? All these kind of negative beliefs. And then I, even down to you can't have it all. And then I went and spent time with Richard Branson, and he has it all. I mean, the man lives on a private island. He's happily married. He's got 2 great kids who are completely functional in society. He does an incredible business. He's got over 400 businesses. 8 of them are billion-dollar businesses in different sectors. He does crazy stuff like go to space. He has a massive purposeful impact on the planet. He plays tennis every morning, he kite surfs every afternoon. I mean, what more can you have in life? Like, truly. And that for me is what a wealth hack is all about, in terms of finding it. So I have some questions for you to get you in the room. And, you might have seen these before, but it's a great time of the year to really consciously say to yourself, like, what would it mean to you in 12 months or less to be earning a globally diversified passive income and portfolio growth without any hassle or complexity? So just think about it. What would it mean to you to be earning a passive income without any hassle or complexity? And you can see there that I've said 12 months or less. And I want to be very clear, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. There's no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme. But I can show you how, with the second question, there's a system how you can statistically help you get there 70% quicker, simpler, and safer. And so who would like a system? The best metaphor I learned or heard was from a guy called Dr. Hannes Dreyer. And he said, all of us can go bake a cake. And our grannies or our mothers or whoever might have baked the best cake out there. But if we copy their recipe, like, we probably won't cook it exactly as good as our granny did. But if we copy the recipe, the chances are that the cake will be sort of 80% plus as good as our granny's cake. Would that make sense? So rather than trying to start from scratch and figure it all out ourselves, if we copy the recipe from our granny to bake the cake, we got about an 80% plus chance of getting the cake, as good as our granny. Now, if that comes down to baking a cake, well, why wouldn't it be the same thing for passive income or for diversification? And so that's what the system is. It can help you get there 70% faster, simpler, and safer. And over the next 5 days, I'm going to prove it to you, not based on my opinion, but based on facts that have literally been proven by Harvard. Is that fair? So let's look at the freedom solution, the 7 pillars to wealth. So I love this by Warren Buffett. And he says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work till you die. You don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work till you die. So I want to share with you the 7 pillars to wealth. Who here would like to make money while they sleep? Just think about this realistically. Own assets which are hassle-free, simple, and safe. I don't mean houses. If anyone's owned houses, you know what I mean. They are not hassle-free. There's consistent problems and things breaking and toilets breaking and tenants moving out. So what about owning assets that are actually hassle-free, simple, and safe? Access to the knowledge of the top 1%. What about access to the partners of the top 1%, navigating the uncertainties of the market? If you've got access to the top partners, there's far better chances to navigate the uncertainties of the market. Have time freedom. I know this is one that's super important to people. No matter how much money you got, people want time freedom. Diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And protect your wealth. Have a plan B and peace of mind. So just look at those 7 pillars to wealth. And as we cascade into 2025, how many of you would like to make this a reality for you in 2025? As a matter of interest, and be honest with me, type in the chat box, who think it sounds too good to be true? Just be honest. Christelle says on some level, yes. Quinton says yes. Shona says no. Soraya says me. Pam says too good to be true. Yes, it does. Maureen says I trust you. No, it can be done. Yes. So don't worry. My commitment to you over the next 5 days is to give you the peace of mind and the inspiration to know that it's possible and that it's possible in 2025. Now, I didn't say you'll be financially free in 2025. I want to be very clear on that. Okay, but if you can get started, if you can have a system, if you can start to get momentum, if you can be getting predictable momentum towards your goal, then you can be in a hell of a lot better position come the end of this year than possibly where you are right now. Is that a fair call? So just to give you some names and faces of different people that have sort of attended these challenges over time, and are doing it from around the world. And we'll start with with some of the ladies. I mean, this lovely lady is retired. She's in England, and she actually now travels the world and does a whole bunch of personal development in terms of the opportunity. Susanna is an influencer and someone that really teaches people about energy and helps people all over the world, and is equally looking to build her diversified passive income. Another highly successful business lady out of Cape Town and wanting to look to diversify and to create globally diversified passive income. Michael is based out of the UK, actually owned a plumbing business. You're going to learn more from him today in terms of that process. This lovely lady is based out of, she's English, but she's actually based out of Spain, and is equally looking, and growing her diversified passive income. And another successful business lady out of Johannesburg, South Africa, also looking to build globally diversified passive income. And actually, Judy attended this challenge this time last year, so when we did the January challenge in 2024. And it's amazing to see the progress that she's achieved over the last year. We look just some more people. Cynthia actually attended over 2 years ago. She's an American based out of Italy, and it's been amazing to watch her results. She got her first passive income within 30 days. I think Derek's actually online. Derek is a farmer, and also managed to achieve his passive income, last year. And again, none of these people have achieved their outcome of exactly where they want to get to yet, but they're all on the road to getting their predictable momentum in terms of that process. Another gentleman actually in his corporate, so he's in the corporate background, and he basically, I think he's 39, might have turned 40 by now, but he's 39 and equally along the path and on the road. This lady is, they actually had a successful business and sold out in terms of their business, and we're looking to protect their wealth with globally diversified passive income. Abdul, again, he is a chartered accountant, and he had wealth in the country he came from, but actually wanted to build globally diversified passive income. And Nielsen Catherine, they had sort of a fairly complicated structure, and they wanted to simplify it and ultimately to set, people up for success. Set themselves up for success, but in a simple and easy way to manage it, not things all over the world. So, if these people can do it, and if 4,000 other people can do it, then I think you can do it. And something that we truly going to focus on a lot in 2025 is women in wealth. So for all the ladies out there, we think this is your year. It's really, really exciting what is happening around the world in terms of this whole space. There's some incredible research coming out of the massive growth and momentum in the value of wealth that is now being transferred to the ladies out there, and that ladies are managing their own wealth, etc., etc. So women in wealth is going to be a massive focus for us in terms of that process. These are many of the people that are already doing it, and my wish for you, my dream for you, is that you too will be doing it this year. And so my question for you in the chat box is, can you see yourself being one of these people? Can you see yourself, having your picture up there? And just visualize it. Because over the next 12 months, I see no reason why every single person that's on here cannot make this a reality. Every single person. And again, I know that sounds too good to be true. And I'm literally going to show you over the next 5 days how you could do that. I want to share with you an avatar of the type of people that we've helped. Jordan is a high net worth 55-year-old, worked very hard in his life, and he wants to build a portfolio to ensure his wealth is preserved. What did he want when he came to us? Well, he wanted to build globally diversified passive income. He wanted at least $5,000 a month. Then he wanted $10,000 a month. Then he wanted $25,000 a month, simply and safely. He wanted to diversify his investments across countries, currencies, and assets. He wanted to use his limited time to get effective results with predictability. He wanted to save decades of frustration and millions of dollars to get the right knowledge for him and his family. He wanted wealth protection, a plan B, and peace of mind. He wanted to be held accountable with an accountability partner to get results. He wanted to have a family office to help him manage all his financial affairs. He wanted to create generational wealth for his family. He wanted to have a fully completed and executable wealth plan and investor strategy sheet. And he wanted to get results. Now, my question to you is, who resonates with Jordan? Who here has the same needs, wants, and wishes as what Jordan has? So Richard says, I do. Soraya, Leifa, Pam, Debbie, Namondo, Jürgen, Gaynor, Max, Ben, Gain. Okay, so lots of you. Okay, what about Victoria? An entrepreneur in her 50s, devoted to her family and business, aiming to build generational wealth. She had a packed schedule. Time was a massive issue for her. So she wanted a streamlined investment strategy that empowers her to make wise decisions, aligns with her goals, and frees up her time for her grandchildren and her daughters. She wants to understand the investment landscape and feel empowered to make the right decisions for herself and for her family. And she wanted to focus on financial freedom so she could cherish more moments with her loved ones. So again, who resonates with Jordan or Victoria or both? Because if you resonate with Jordan or Victoria or both, then you're in the right place. If these things are the things that you're looking for, then we can help you. If they're not, then chances are you're in the wrong place. Is that fair? Now, over the next 5 days, I'm going to help you walk away with a plan so that you too can have what Jordan and Victoria were looking for and have achieved. That's my commitment to you. Over the next 5 sessions, by Friday, you will have a plan that goes through and achieves those objectives. That's my commitment to you. Now, just some motivation before we get started. I heard this about 2 years ago. In fact, I think Derek was the one that actually shared it with me. And he said, you become old when your regrets replace your dreams. Keep on dreaming. And I love that because, I'm a year older. We're all a year older. And it's such a beautiful saying that you get old when your regrets replace your dreams. Keep on dreaming. And so some people will be sitting there, yeah, Scott, it's too good to be true. It's fine for someone else, or they've got all the money, or they've got all the time, or they've got all the knowledge, or whatever self-belief, challenges that people have. And yet my commitment to you, my request to you is just to have an open mind. Just have an open mind that maybe it's possible. Maybe if I dream, and maybe if I tend for the next 5 days, and maybe, just maybe, if I come up with a plan, then maybe it's possible. And the second saying I love is no one changes unless they want to. Not if you beg them, not if you shame them, not if you use reason, emotion, or tough love. There's only one thing that makes someone change: their own realization that they need to. And there's only one time it'll happen: when they decide they're ready. And so there's a couple of people that have done these different challenges and might not have changed in 2024 or maybe 2023. I've been doing this since 2004. So this will be my 21st year of doing this. And so maybe you were there 20 years ago. Who knows? And maybe you weren't ready. But hopefully this year you're ready. And I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to shame you. I'm not even going to try and reason with you. But I'm going to ask you to commit and to make this a reality for yourself. So I do remind you that I'm not giving you any financial advice. I am only sharing with you my lessons, my own stories, my own mistakes that I've made, and I'm trying to help you to achieve your objectives in terms of that process. Now, I want to share with you some very important mindset stuff that I learned from Tony Robbins many, many years ago. So it was 2009, 2010. And my philosophy in life has always been to work harder than anyone else. So I would always, when I was at school, I wasn't necessarily the smartest, but I worked harder than anyone else, and I did really well. At university, I was exactly the same. On the rugby pitch, I wasn't the most talented, but I was certainly always the fittest. And when I went in business in 2004, I just worked harder than anyone else. But the problem is you hit a ceiling of complexity, and just hard work alone, 7 days a week, doesn't actually help you. And then we had the crash in 2009. I was like, what do I do? I can't work any harder. And so I found this course called Business Mastery that Tony Robbins had, and you had to apply for it. I remember filling in the application. I took it as seriously as filling in my Harvard application. And anyway, I filled the whole thing in, sent it off, and I got accepted. I was like, I got accepted. I was so excited. I got accepted. And then the invoice came for $15,000. Anyway, I was so excited. I got accepted. I paid my $15,000. I flew over to, where was it? I think it was in Vegas. And flew over to Vegas, and there were 1,000 other people in the room. I was like, oh, wow. I think anyone that paid their $15,000 got accepted. Anyway, I was there for 5 days, and I learned some incredible things. And I want to share with you, because it was all about business, as in the next 5 days is all about investing. But some of this mindset stuff is incredibly important if you actually want to achieve the objectives. So the first is that people get their musts and not their shoulds. So if you must earn $1,000 a month, and you're going to notice, I'm going to talk in dollars the whole next 5 days. I don't care if you're from Switzerland or Sweden or South Africa or Brazil or Botswana or Zambia. It makes no difference to me. The global reserve currency is dollars. I don't care whether you agree or disagree with it. It is. And so I'm going to talk in dollars. And all that you can do wherever you are in the world is you can just convert it into whatever your currency is. So people get their musts and not their shoulds. So if you must earn $1,000, you'll find a way to make it happen. But you often don't get your shoulds. And so people get what they tolerate. So that's the first problem that people have. And the second is that they know all of this, they understand everything, but they do not take action. So there's 3 types of learning. You've got cognitive learning, which is where you go and read all about stuff. Okay, so I like the metaphor of when we learn to drive, because most of us have learned to drive, and you go and do your learner's test. It's a written test. And, all 16-year-olds think they can drive after that, but we all know they can't. Then you go to emotional mastery, and that's when you get in your car and you do the mirror check thing, and you actually have an instructor with you. And again, you think you can drive, but most of us, actually weren't very good at that period. And the third level is where you actually have physical mastery, and that's for some of us that have been driving for 30 plus years, we all do stuff we probably shouldn't do. Where we're on the car, we know we've been driving for so long that we can kind of do it on autopilot in terms of that process. So with anything, whether it's investing, whether it's wealth, whether it's business, there are these three levels of learning, and you need to be aware that you're going to go through these three levels of learning. The second thing I want to share with you is probably one of the best lessons I ever learned in my life. And it's at this point that I want to stop sharing and I want to share my iPad with you. Where's it gone now? Why is it not sharing? So just give me 2 seconds. Yeah. Okay, so that firstly, are you all seeing me? You've all disappeared now. Where have you all gone?
We're here, Scott. We're just seeing Scott has started sharing screen.
So you're not actually seeing the screen share yet?
No, not yet.
It's bizarre. Why is it not sharing the screen? Okay,
Maybe just stop and restart again. Scott, did you tell your iPad that you're on work mode, not holiday mode? Maybe it's still on holiday mode. Okay, we can start seeing Notion now. We're seeing Notion, the little pencil. There we go. We can see it.
Okay. So, perfect. Thanks. So, okay. So this is the Global Investor Strategy Sheet. We'll come back to this just now. But what I wanted to share with you, the first thing, was that what Tony Robbins taught me was that the first type of person you get is a dabbler. So they want to learn something. They let's just take sport. They want to learn tennis. So they come along over here and they want to learn tennis, and they go on a couple of tennis courses and they get quite good. And then they hit the ceiling of complexity and they literally fall off. So what is the ceiling of complexity? Anything you learn in life, it gets hard and then you fall off. So they're like, oh no, bugger tennis. Tennis is too hard. I tell you what, I'll go learn squash. So they go do some courses on squash and they kind of learn squash, and then it gets too hard, the ceiling complexity, and then they fall off. And then they're like, okay, no, well, forget about squash. Maybe I should learn paddle. So they go and they do some courses on paddle and they get, better, and then at the ceiling of complexity, and then they fall off. And this is what dabblers do. Dabblers consistently start and don't finish. So when it comes to investing, they go on a course in cryptocurrency and it gets a bit hard and then they stop doing it. And they do a course on day trading and it gets a bit hard and then they stop doing it. They do a course like this on diversification and kind of property and real estate, and it gets a bit hard and then they fall off. Now, from my experience, the dabblers will turn up today on Monday. They won't be here by kind of Wednesday or Thursday, because that's their consistent pattern in life. They start things and they don't see it through. And again, there's that whole rule of 10,000 hours where it takes 10,000 hours to really get good at something. I'm going to share with you right now how you can shorten that in a significant way. So anyway, so that's the first type of person. The second type of person is what's called the stressor. Now, what a stressor does is they want to learn something new. So they're over here, they want to learn, I don't know, say property. And so they want to learn, they learn a bit about property and they go on a course and it gets hard. So they go on a course and they find a mentor and they they get a coach and, et cetera, and they read books and they try and they persist and they try and they break through. You heard me, ladies and gentlemen, they break through. It's so exciting. And then what happens again? They hit another ceiling complexity. And they try and they read books and they go on courses and it gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And then they break through again. Now, this is a way to succeed. It's what I did for 14 different years. And it is a way to succeed, but it's hell of a hard. It's very, very difficult. You try and do everything on your own. And you try and, literally try and figure it all out. And if I take myself, that's what I did. I mean, for 14 different years, I went out and I read every single book. I mean, you name it, whether it was on business, whether it was on personal development, whether it was on mindset, I read it all. And I thought I had to do it all myself. I've got degrees. I've got an honors degree, cum laude. I've got a master's degree, cum laude. I've got CRS, which is Certified Residential Specialist, which is the top out of America. I got AIPP, which is the top out of England, Association of International Property Professionals. I got PDP out of South Africa, which comes from the business school out of South Africa. It's the top property development course in South Africa. I mean, you name it, I've done it. You name the personal development person, I've done it. And I don't tell you that to boast. It's just because I was a stressor. Okay, I was consistently stressing on how to get better, how to get better, how to get better. And then in 2010, I came along this course of Tony Robbins, like I've already told you, and he taught me a better way. And it's the way of mastery. And what Tony Robbins taught me was that you can model other people, you can master them. And so you can literally, like this can be you over here, and you want to learn something new. And you might want to be, like in my case in business, this was me and I wanted to be Richard Branson. But there's multiple people along the way, and you can literally like copy them. So you can find people that are already successful and you can copy what they're doing. And it's a much easier, simpler, and safer way to be able to get to where you want to get to. So I learned that in 2010. And then a couple of years later, I actually learned there was even a faster way to get there. And that was actually just to partner with them. So rather than just copying them and still trying to do it all on my own, I could actually just copy them and partner with them. And so you got the dabbler, you got the stressor, you got the master, and you got the people that actually have learned to partner. And my question to you is, if I just go stop share here, if you're honest with yourself, who here has been a dabbler? Who here has been a stressor? Who here is already a master? Because what's interesting to me is that, you got the dabbler, you got the stressor who is, I will find a way. And then you got the mastery. And the mastery, they expect problems. They find pathways. They look for the easiest way. They look for others who've done it. They believe in success leaves clues, modeling. And ultimately, the ultimate is to partner with them. And, if you look, I've got the picture of Richard Branson here, and I always use him as a bit of a metaphor. If you were going to start a business, I don't care who you are, and you were going to start a business on your own, or if you started a business with Richard Branson, which one do you think would be more successful? You would get results quicker, and you would get it safer. Like the chances of losing money would be a lot less. And that's the whole principle of mastery and even better partnership. So I can see here, let's look at what everyone said here. I can see I've been stressor, I've been all three, stressor, such a dabbler, stressor. Yeah, so most people are often stressors. I was a stressor until I learned a new way. Been all three with Richard. I've been a dabbler, stressor, first two. I've been three, but my paradigm changed when he taught me this last year. I show you short videos. Yep, stressor. So most of us, I mean, I myself can, what's it? I'm a stressor. Can't think of the right word now, but anyway, I'm a stressor. And my strong recommendation to you is to commit to mastery. Commit to mastery, and over the next 5 days, I'm going to show you how not only can you master this, but also how you can partner. The other thing that I wanted to share with you was this here, which is the kind of the learning journey. And I want to consciously warn you that I'm taking you on this journey. So over the next 5 days, next 5 sessions, I'm going to consciously take you on this journey. So the first one is where you're unconsciously incompetent, like you don't even know what you don't know. The second one is consciously incompetent. So now you actually know what you don't know. So if you take the concept of riding a bicycle, you know, this person over here doesn't even know what they don't know. They don't even know that they don't know how to ride a bike. Now they get a bike put in front of them, and now they know that they don't know how to ride the bike. Then you've got consciously competent. So this is where they're starting to ride the bike. They're a bit wobbly, but like they're actually on it and they're starting to kind of get going, but they really have to think about what to do. And then finally you get to unconscious competence, which is where you kind of do it without even thinking. And I just want to warn you, if you're feeling overwhelmed over the next couple of days, like I'm doing it on purpose. Okay. I could dumb this down. I could make this like super simple for you, but I don't think I'm doing you justice. So we're going to go deep. We're going to go hard. I'm going to share with you the best stuff that I can, and I'm going to do it on purpose because I want you to, when you walk away from here, you might not know everything yet. There's no ways that I can teach you what I've learned in 29 years in 5 sessions. It's impossible. But what I do want you to do is to be somewhere between conscious incompetent and conscious competence by Friday. Is that fair? And I've shown you how to do it. So that if you do feel overwhelmed, just consistently have the peace of mind that we will show you different ways that you can do mastery at different levels. I'll show you different ways that you can do partnership so that you can get the results that you want. Is that fair? So every time you say, oh, I'm just kind of feeling overwhelmed, or don't worry about it. Like I'm warning you up front, like I'm intentionally doing this, and I'm going to help you walk away with a plan. I've said to you literally within the first 2 minutes, we're going to walk away with a plan so that you've got the peace of mind. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, don't be a dabbler, don't disappear, just stick with it. Remember that saying, just dare to dream. And by Friday, I believe you'll walk away with a plan. You'll walk away with a peace of mind, and we will have a solution for you. Whether you fly economy, business, or first class, it doesn't matter. We'll make sure that you're on the airplane. That's the objective. Okay, now, whenever I've done one of these challenges, I find there's tremendous value in doing your homework. So call it self-study, call it whatever you like. But every day there's exercises, and they're short exercises. They take no more than 15 to 20 minutes. But the whole objective is that I want you to take the knowledge that I've shared with you, and I want you to synthesize it. So the silver I would recommend is compulsory. Every day try and do it. It's only 15 to 20 minutes. I've very consciously done it to keep it short. And the gold is bonus stuff. And that, you don't have to do this week. You can if you're an overachiever, but you're going to get access to it so that you can do it in the future. Is that fair? Okay, so that's my strong recommendation. Then you've got the resources guide. So Shane, our partner, Alex is online with me, but he's actually moving today, so Shane is not joining us. But Shane has built the most incredible resources guide where you got access to everything. So maybe Alex, if you can just type just put it in the chat box, the link to the resources guide. Here's the link here, diversificationchallenge.com/resources. And you can literally go here, and each day the resources, so you can see at the moment, they're not there at the moment. And once we finish today, all the resources for day 1 will be here. Then you've got day 2. By the way, all the recordings are here, everything's here. So all you need is this one link. No, that's the diversification workshop, Alex. We need the challenge. But with the diversification challenge, and then you've basically got the, I'll put the, anyway, and you can literally go through and you've then got access to all the different resources. So again, Shane's amazing to make it really easy for you. It's all in one place. You can literally find it. You hopefully have all downloaded your investor strategy sheet. So you should all have this sheet that you've downloaded. And if I, again, let me go back to my iPad because it just works a little bit better. Okay, so you should all have this sheet. And what we're going to do over the next 5 days is we're going to start with the power of clarity. So you literally are like, what are your top 5 whys? Why is this important to you? Then we're going to go through the countries. What are the top 5 countries that you want to invest in? Then we'll go to currencies. What are the top 5 currencies that you want to invest in? Then we're going to go to assets. What are the top 15 assets that you should invest in? I'm going to share with you a formula from one of the wealthiest people in the world where he's achieved a return of 21% for 40 years. So 21% in US dollars for 40 years. And his single simple formula is that you need 15 quality assets. Well, what are they? Then it's about partners. How do you find the right partners and avoid the mistakes that 80% of people make? Then it's about time. How do you actually build a wealth plan over time so that you know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, who to do it with, etc., etc. And then finally, how do you use technology to do it simply and safely? Now, is it fair that over the next 5 days, and I really hope that you've actually printed those sheets out or at least put them on your iPad like I've done. And if you looked at your homework was to print 2 of these. And I actually said to you, I would recommend, like, last night, and if you haven't done it, try to do it tonight, to try fill this in. Because remember we spoke about unconscious incompetence? I did this on purpose so that when people go and do it, and they're like, oh my word, which would be the top 5 countries? I don't know. Which would be the top 5 currencies? I don't know. I'd be guessing. Which would be the top 15 assets? I don't know. Maybe I could name like 3 of them. And I'm doing it on purpose so that you unconscious, like you can realize what you need to learn. And then over the next 5 days, my commitment to you is that you'll be able to fill this in so that you actually walk away with a plan. So that is this sheet here. And hopefully, as I said to you, you've all printed it out. I can take the horse to water, but I cannot make the horse drink. I would recommend that you join our Wealth University group. So we use School, and you can literally go to our community and you can actually click on it. So there you've got the link, wealthuniversity.org/community. And I also recommend that you join our WhatsApp group. So just scan this code and you will be able to join our WhatsApp group. So, and this is where we just keep everyone updated through the week, what's happening, when the room's starting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're not quite sure what to do next, we've always got the Next Steps Navigator, where it's an AI tool we use. It asks you a couple of questions so that we can help you go down the right path in terms of, actually finding out the right information in terms of, your next step. So all of these things will be on the resources page. You can put them there and we will be chucking them in the chat box as well to be able to help you with all of these steps in terms of where we're at. Alex, I can see you've put in the School Wealth Hackers. We need the Wealth University link for the community. Okay. Finally, in terms of the homework competition, every day we're going to do the homework competition and there's going to be prizes. So in the Wealth University group, you literally go into the diversification group. Let me get it and I'll show you here in terms of the group. So let me open it up for you. Boom, boom, boom. Where's it gone now? Okay, so if I share my screen with you quickly, you can basically see in Wealth University here, we got the diversification challenge. You just click on this tab, and then everything with regards to the challenge is actually here. So you can see the freedom calculator, the investor strategy sheet, everything is actually here. And this is where we fill in, like, so we'll put up later day one's challenge, action steps, day 4, like each day we'll put them up kind of up in terms of the process. But this is where you can go and you can post, you can put your homework in, and everything else in terms of how we do it. So we actually create the community and the engagement within the group. So again, you can do that, and there will be prizes, and you can also win an upgrade to the VIP room. So every day when I finish the free session, I go into the VIP room, and that's where for at least an hour I'll answer any questions for people about what is going on, what is happening, any questions I got around the content. It's basically a group coaching session. We find that in the VIP room, that's where people get the most results in terms of the process, because they're the ones that get to learn, they're the ones that get to grow in terms of that process. And so if you want to sign up, there's still time. You can literally go through and sign up. And we also give prizes away for the people that engage the most in the chat. So if you want to sign up for the VIP upgrade, you can literally just go to the link, sign up. It's $47. And what you get for $47 is fairly amazing. So I charge $1,000 an hour for coaching. You get 5 hours with me every day, Monday, today through Friday, where every day you get a time with me. You also get access to all the replays. So after the end of the week, all the replays go down. So if you want to watch this over and over again, then you get access to the replays. You also get live access to all the different trainings. So what that means is you can go back to them and look at them over and over again. And you get access to the first module, the power of clarity, in terms of the countries. So module number 1, the top 5 countries. And you get $100 off your first investment on a course. So it's kind of a no-brainer if you're a financial person. You invest $47 and you get $100 off. It's kind of a 2-for-1 ROI anyway. Why do we charge $47? Because we've learned that people that pay attention. And I want to tell you a little story. I've always, whenever I've done any course, I always pay to be part of VIP. And the reason being is I always want to get close to the speaker, because I've learned, like when I went to Neck Island with Rich Branson, there's one thing to sit passively on a Zoom or webinar. It's another thing to actually be in a room, to be able to ask any question you want and to really learn and grow with a small like-minded group of people. And this was something I did recently. It was at the end of last year. This is Russell Brunson. So his mastermind is $250,000. So to be able to speak to Russell Brunson, you need to have $250,000. I was actually on a challenge he was running. I paid $500 to be part of his VIP room. And what that enabled me to do was to be in a room with about, 30, 35 other people, and to be able to ask questions. And this was me asking him a question directly, which is invaluable. Literally, like, I know I've got to meet him. I know who he is. He knows who I am. He knows what our business is. And I got to ask him personal questions about it. So I strongly recommend, and I put my money where my mouth is, in terms of I'm always the one paying to kind of get in the room, whether it's Chet Holmes or Dr. Dolph DeRuis or Tony Robbins. I always do it to get it in the VIP room. And what people have said about the VIP room over the different challenges we've done is, thanks so much, learned a lot. Thanks for the explanation. I love to receive the article. Thanks so much for sharing. We'll have to catch up tomorrow. Thank you for bumping me. All I can say is, wow, I'm blown away. Gratitude. VIP is excellent. Your explanations are great. Well done. Thank you so much. Thanks for the participants who ask questions. Because that's the other thing. You learn not only from what you want to ask, but what from other people, ask. Another informative session. I asked so many questions last night. I want to sincerely thank Scott for his patience. What I learned is life-changing. I love all the questions. It's so helpful to have so many different situations come up and get the answers to questions we didn't know we had. Learning from each other, that's the power of collaboration. So, I mean, that's just a few of them. So you still got time if you want to go to the VIP upgrade. Alex, if you can just put the link in there for people as well. And then, yeah, if you're part of Wealth Hackers, you get automatic access. If you're part of Mastermind, you get automatic free access as well. So that's our way to make sure that you're getting the most. Okay, so let's rock and roll. So what is this all about? So our business is helping people live a life unlimited, and we believe that the way to do it is through diversification. Now, a story that resonates very personally for me is a story of two brothers. And the first brother was in Zimbabwe in 1976. There were a lot of political issues in Zimbabwe. And so him and his wife, they were on a farm, and there were a lot of problems going on the farm. So they got in their car. They put all of their lifelong belongings in a car. You were only allowed to leave the country with what you could put in a car. And they drove from Zimbabwe down to Durban. And it was a very difficult life, one of reaction. They arrived in Durban. They didn't have a farm. They only had whatever was in the car. And they pretty much had to start again. And they were very susceptible to the currency and economics and the political environment, and a very reactive life, basically. The second person, the second brother, in 1980 decided, nope, they weren't going to leave Zimbabwe. They were going to stay, but they were going to start investing offshore. So in 1980, they did their first offshore investment. They bought offshore assets and started earning offshore income. And 23 years later, 2003, that brother decided it was time to leave Zimbabwe. And he was 53 years old, and he bought his way into Australia. So people are like, you can't get into Australia after 50. Well, he did. At 53, he bought his way into Australia. He bought a house for cash in Brisbane. He sent his kid to one of the best private schools in Brisbane called Churchie, and his kid went on to row for some of the best universities in the world. And the thing that I always enjoy is that he never actually had to work for an Australian. And so the question I always have for people is, which brother do you want to be? Do you want to be the reactive brother, or do you want to be the proactive brother? So do you want to be the reactive brother, or do you want to be the proactive brother? And I know these questions are kind of common sense, but I'm just reinforcing some things. And I started off today and I said, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And I'm reminding you that it took 23 years to set himself up for success and to have the choices. But he was able to do it because he made decisions 23 years earlier. 23 years earlier. Now, the first brother, the reactive brother, that was my dad. And this was me at the age of 13. I was on my first property project at the age of 13. And my father did what we were all taught to do. He went to school, he worked hard, he went to university, he worked hard. He finally became a chartered accountant. He became financial director of a listed company. He invested, he paid his taxes, he trusted the financial industry. And yet when my dad died at 59, he died broke. Yep, you heard me correct. He died broke. And I was like, I don't understand. We've all been told to work hard, to go to university, to get a great degree, to get a great job, to invest, to trust the financial industry, and we were going to retire happily at 65. But my dad didn't. And I was like, well, that sucks. Like, that doesn't look like a very good plan to follow. And so I started doing my own research, and I went out and I, read all the books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, et cetera, and I learned all about this, the different quadrants, the employee and the self-employed and the business owner and the investor. But the bottom line is, I learned from a guy called Dr. Hannes Dreyer, and he said, when you look at people at the age of 65 that come out of England, Australia, and America, so not even the emerging world like South Africa, India, China, like England, Australia, and America. At the age of 65, 94% of people are going to be dead, broke, or reliant on the government. Dead, broke, or reliant on the government. So they'll be the same as my dad. 5% of people are going to be financially independent. And what does that basically mean? Well, if I'm in a live room, I always say to people, who wants to be financially independent? People will put up there, and me, until they actually find out the stats. And according to the financial industry, if you earn 25% less than your last paycheck, so 25% less than your last paycheck, then you're financially independent at the age of 65. And I'm like, that sucks. Like, you're just 25% poorer. I mean, I think that's financially trapped. And I had experienced just this holiday where someone very close to my family is an optometrist, worked his whole life, invested, done everything he was told to do. And now he's in his mid-80s and he's healthy and they can't afford to go on holiday. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And only 1% of people retire wealthy. 100 of us are starting a race and only one person is finishing. 100 of us are starting a race and only one person is finishing. And so, whether you're the employee or the self-employed or the business owner, the question is, how do you be the investor? And how do you actually build globally diversified passive income? And I thought to myself, I had to go and do it all myself. I thought, I showed you already, I thought I had to go and buy all the books, do all the courses, go out and buy all the properties. I bought 60 different properties. And I thought, wow, I'm going to be financially free. I bought all these houses. And it just didn't work. Trying to do it all on my own. And what I'm going to share with you is the lessons that I learned on how to do it differently, so that you can achieve this for yourself, and so that you don't follow in the footsteps of my father. So where did it all start for me? Well, I already showed you the picture of my first project when I was 13, where we developed, we extended the house and put a double bedroom bathroom onto the house. I did my first property development when I was 22 years old. I developed 6 townhouses in Rondebosch, Cape Town. I did my first property project in London when I was 24 years old. And this is actually a terrace house in Wimbledon in London. I then started a company at 25 where I helped thousands of people invest in South African property. The company's name was International Property Solutions. Hundreds in the UK, hundreds in Australia, hundreds in America, all residential houses or apartments. And the challenge is that who here used to like Monopoly? So I'm just going to have a quick sip of water. But who liked Monopoly as a kid? I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved Monopoly. I still love Monopoly. But who else enjoys Monopoly? Huh? I can see there's lots of me's. So I saw one I didn't. Later said she didn't, her brothers always won. So when you're playing Monopoly, was it better to own a greenhouse or a red hotel? I mean, just be realistic. Was, even when you were like 5 or 6 years old, was it better to own a greenhouse or a red hotel? Or let's get a little bit more complicated. Was it better to own 4 greenhouses or 1 red hotel? 4 greenhouses or 1 red hotel? And I can see that everyone's still putting in the 1 red hotel. And that's right. And so while I was out there, I'd helped 2,500 people buy houses or apartments. I'd helped myself buy a whole bunch of houses and apartments. And I realized that there was a massive problem because ever since we were children, we were taught that commercial property, the red hotels, was the way to do it. But there was equally huge barriers to entry. You were stuck in country. So even if you were buying houses and apartments, you were stuck in one country. If you wanted to get into commercial property, real estate, if you're in that part of the world, or even better, international property, there were massive barriers to entry. And then you took into account legal, banking, tax, structuring, etc., etc. And it just got so difficult and so complex. And I realized that the 99% just cannot invest like the top 1%. But where this became starkly painful was in 2009, we had that crash. So we had the global financial crisis at the end of 2008, beginning of 2009. And in Wimbledon in the UK, where the tennis is in England, there was an opportunity to buy 48 units. And I could buy them from Barrett Homes, which is a very sophisticated developer. We could buy them fully furnished, fully tenanted. And I literally ran around to my 2,500 investors and I said, this is a no-brainer. I literally said, I don't care what happens with the market in the short term. This represents a real opportunity. We were buying them at a 40% discount. They were positive cash flow income of £440 a month. We were buying them for £160,000 each. It was a no-brainer. There was just one small problem. We needed £10 million. And so I went to all my 2,500 investors and I was like, come on, this is a no-brainer. You've all learned you need to buy red hotels. We need to invest like the top 1% invest, like the institutions invest. Come on, let's do this. And I just couldn't get people to work together. And we lost that opportunity. And I don't want to take too much time today, but I actually went back to Barrett Homes and I said, listen, I can't buy the 48 units, but can I just buy one unit? And they literally laughed at me. They laughed me out the room. And it's so frustrating to me because does anyone have any idea how much those apartments are worth today in Wimbledon? So remember, we could have bought them for £140,000 in 2009, and we would have earned a positive cash flow income of £440 every single month from those units. And Gaynor says quadruple. Anyone else want to have a guess? How much do you think they're worth today? Natasha says 10 times, 10x, 6,650, 700, multi-million, Wimbledon. Yeah, so they're about 750, I'd say, 750, 800. So they've gone up at least 4 or 5 times. So this is where the pain really started to set in, that I was not able to invest like the top 1%. The second time it happened to me was Bondi Beach, Sydney. It was about a year later. I was in Australia and I met two very wealthy gentlemen. I was like, what are you investing in? They said, well, we're investing in medical centers. And again, the world was in chaos. And I was like, why medical? And they said, well, think about it. No matter what happens in the world, people need doctors. I'm like, cool, that makes sense. Secondly, doctors never change their premises. And I was like, yep, that makes sense too. I mean, think back when you were a childhood, like your doctor's premises are still probably doctor's premises. And then finally, they said to me, well, and doctors are very good at being doctors, but they're not, great accountants. So they sign long-term leases. I was like, this is a no-brainer. Like, why was I never taught this at university? Anyway, I was like, how do I participate? And they said, we're raising $40 million. There's 8 slots of $5 million each. I was like, cool. Let me go speak to my investors. So I ran around, talked to all my investors, said, hey, come, we need to do this deal. It's a great deal. And I just couldn't get people to participate. And so again, we failed. We didn't succeed. And literally, that company went on to list on the Australian Stock Exchange and is worth over $700 million. And these two things really made me realize that the 99% literally cannot invest like the top 1%. And it created so much pain for me because I'd been out there all this time trying to buy houses. This was me. I'm sure many of you read this book, Real Estate Riches by Dr. Dolph DeRoos. And it was so interesting because, he says, go and look at 100 houses, make an offer on 10, get accepted for 1, buy it, or accepted for 3, buy 1, etc. And I did it. I bought lots of houses. I mean, this was me in Phoenix, Arizona. I spent $8,000, however many years ago, to go on a buyer's trip with him for a week. You can see me here on the buyer's trip with him for a week because I thought I had to do it all myself. Remember, I was a stressor. You must do it all yourself, do it all yourself, do it all yourself. And I told you, I bought all these houses and it was just a nightmare. I mean, what I realized was that I had all these houses, and I thought if I buy all these houses, I'll be free. But actually, I just had a hell of a lot more hassle in my life and a lot less money. So I had more hassle and less money. More hassle and less money. And then in 2010, I went and I met Tony Robbins. I told you already, I went to Vegas and I did Business Mastery 1 in Vegas. And then I got persuaded to go to Business Mastery 2 in Fiji. And I actually flew over there. The whole little thing cost $50,000. And I actually got the rights to partner with Tony Robbins. So most people you'll meet have done a Tony Robbins course, but there's not many people you'll meet that have actually partnered with Tony Robbins. And again, I learned about mentoring and mastery from Tony Robbins. And then I got to partner with him. And through partnering, I realized there was a whole nother way. Like you just go to a whole different stratosphere when you actually partner with someone. So in 2014, we did our first commercial deal. And we did it all through partnering. And we did a $16 million deal. It was in Atlanta, in America. It was 6 different buildings. And there were 82 investors from 5 different continents. And it was amazing because we partnered with some incredible partners. And, you know, it was a great investment. And 5 years later, we sold that investment. We sold it on to a fund. We earned an 8% cash on cash. So this is all in US dollars. So we actually earned a higher than 8% cash on cash. So that's net cash flow in your pocket. And we got a total return of about 15% IRR per annum over the 5 years when we exited this project. And what I basically learned was my residential property. Remember I told you, they were high in hassle and low in return. High in hassle, low in return. And these commercial properties were high in return, low in hassle. High in return, low in hassle. So do you want high hassle, low return, or do you want low hassle, high return? Which one do you want? Do you want low return, high hassle, or do you want low hassle, high return? Because I know certainly for me, I wanted low hassle, high return. And that's where we just changed about 10 years ago. And we started doing everything from a partnership perspective. And that enabled us to start investing like the top 1% and to start partnering with the institutional investors. And so the people that buy-to-let properties the old way, I call them mom and pop investors, retail investors, because that's what you know, all of these people, Robert Kiyosaki and Dolph DeRuss and all that, you know, they've all taught us to be retail investors, to be mom and pop investors, to run around, to invest like everyone else, to basically invest like the middle class. And my challenge to you is stop thinking like a retail investor. Stop thinking like a mom and pop investor. I don't care how much money you have. Let me repeat that. I don't care how much money you have. Stop thinking like a retail investor or mom and pop investor and start thinking like an institutional investor, because these are the type of returns you can get when you think like a sophisticated investor or when you think like an institutional investor. And I can promise you that there's not many people in the world in residential property that can tell me that they've got an 8% cash on cash return. That's per annum. That's net in your pocket. And a 15% IRR, which is a mixture of income plus capital growth. There's not many people that can show you that in the residential world. But yet in the commercial world, it's happening. I've done it. I know it's a fact. And so we went on and did that many, many times over in the last 10 years. We facilitated over $1.3 billion in terms of the process. We've got investors in 71 countries. We've invested over $109 million and paid out $31 million in dividends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we've done it in America, England, Europe, Australia, and in South Africa. And so the question I have for you is, why do investors invest and why do they diversify? What are you looking for? Are you looking for preservation of wealth? You know, I know Alan's online here. As an example, it might be to protect your wealth. You've worked really hard for your money. Everyone's worked hard for their money. You want to protect it. What about a plan B? You don't want all your eggs in one basket. You don't want all your money tied up in one country or one currency or one asset class. What about peace of mind? What about being able to sleep well at night, knowing that you're not tied to whether, Trump getting into power on the 20th of January is going to have a massive impact because all your investments are in one place? And finally, freedom. Freedom of choice. Freedom to be able to choose where you want to live, where you want to send your kids to school, where you want to go, your kids to go to university. Where do you want to work? Who do you want to spend your time with? What do you want to do with your life? That's all about freedom. So what is it for you? Because we live in crazy times. We've had the Ukraine, in the last 2 years, we've had the Ukraine war, we've had inflation at a 40-year high, we've had cost of living going up, we've had fuel prices going up, we've had the stock market all over the place, we've had load shedding, we've had Israeli conflicts, we've had Trump being attemptedly assassinated, we've had Labour winning by a landslide in England, and all the massive confusion in England around the whole Biden-led space. We've had the GNU in South Africa. We've had Biden quitting the race, and we've had Trump's landslide and him getting into power on the 20th. And what does that all mean to us? And that's why we talk about diversification 5.0. And what's it all about? Well, it's about diversifying across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time in terms of that process. And it's quite simple. And I'd highly recommend that you write this down, because everything I've said can be simplified into two things. You need the right information and you need the right partners. That's what you need. I can give you all the knowledge in the world, but the bottom line is you need the right information and you need the right partners. And so when we run the challenge, our agenda, our mission is to turn money into globally diversified passive income. Day one is all about understanding diversification. Why is it important? Day two is about the types of investments, the asset classes and the risks. What do you invest in and where do you invest? Day three is about building a diversified portfolio, asset allocation. How do you actually invest? Day four is about risk management. Who do you actually invest with? And day five is about putting it all into practice, like actually having a plan. When do you do what you need to do? So those are the 5 days. And if you want to go into more detail, each day, I mean, it's on the website, but each day goes in and explains what it's about and why you should be there in terms of the 5 different modules. Now, what I wanted to share with you quickly is a quick video. And I want to share this video with you because sometimes all of this stuff can feel overwhelming. But this is a video we made a little while back on all our different partners and what they basically had to say about being a partner within our team. So let's just go here quickly. Boom, boom, boom. Sorry, give me 2 seconds. Just got to find the video now. Where's it gone? Oh, damn it. Can't find the video now. Where's it gone? Yeah, got it.
Inspired. Freedom.
Abundance.
Credibility. Enlightened.
Impactful.
Powerfully enabling.
Unimaginable.
Peace of mind.
Phenomenal.
Total honesty.
Reliable.
Genius.
Engaged.
Excited.
Hopeful.
Exponential.
Empowered.
Connected. Dream. Innovative.
Global diversity.
Opportunities.
Freedom. Change.
Excited.
Blessed. Empowered.
Incredible. Privileged.
Revolutionary. Super. Disruptive.
Support.
Change.
Empowering.
Excited. Interesting.
Evolving.
Opportunity.
Buzzing.
Powerful. Fortunate.
It's possible.
Work. Community. Inkululeko. Proud.
Transformative.
Fido.
Inclusive.
Satisfaction.
Trust.
Discipline.
Secure.
Proud.
Fortunate.
Excited.
Driven.
Privileged. Community.
Spearheading.
Unlimited. Excited.
I feel inspired.
Partnership.
Future.
Inspired.
Peace of mind.
Excited. Metamorphosis.
Inspirational.
Freedom.
Abundance.
Pathfinders.
Empowered.
Inspired.
Purposeful.
Opportunity.
Engaged.
Passive income.
Transformation.
Generous.
Grateful. Rewarding.
Legendary.
Cash flow.
Diversified.
Interesting.
Exciting.
Freedom.
Gives me options.
Empowerment.
Highly innovative.
Exponential. Bold. Opportunities.
Grateful.
Freedom.
Absolutely inspirational.
Leading edge.
Empowering. Adventure.
Game changer.
Groundbreaking.
International.
Liberating.
HOPE. Phenomenal. Professional.
Life-changing.
Inspired.
Opportunity.
Freedom.
Independence.
Diversified.
Peace of mind.
Prosperity.
The future.
Being a wealth partner is empowering.
So what word do you think you'll use and why? So let's go into a little bit more detail around understanding diversification and why it's important. Because just like all of those people, and you can see all different backgrounds, all different countries and ethnic backgrounds and ages and everything in between, I want you to be one of those people. And what becomes really important is that what we're going to do now is we're going to prove that diversification is the single most important component to financial success. We're going to unlearn the things that are stopping you from doing it. And we are going to learn from real people and real stories who have actually done it. So all the people that I've just showed you, I'm going to share with you real people and real stories that have actually done it. So whenever you do a dissertation at university, so I've done my honors degree and my master's, and you do a dissertation, and when you do a dissertation, you have to prove a hypothesis. So what that means is there's a statement and you either need to prove it or disprove it. So the hypothesis that I have for you is that diversification equals financial success. And we went and did the research, and we looked at some of the wealthiest people in the world, some of the biggest companies in the world, and we said, right, what have they got to say? You know, the people that you already know, like, and trust, what have they got to say about diversification? And the first one was Ray Dalio. And he said the single most important component to financial success is, and does anyone want to type in the chat box, what is the single most important component to financial success? So we've got knowledge, we've got diversification. You can see there's lots of people putting in diversification. Diversity, yep, it's diversification. And as he's spoken about in his book, Principles, which I highly recommend, he said you should diversify across asset classes, across within asset classes, across markets and currencies, and across time. And it was actually interesting because in this book here, Tony Robbins went in 2009. He was so disappointed. 10 million middle-class Americans went bankrupt. And he went and spoke to 50 of the wealthiest people in the country. And he said, teach me what your formulas are so that I can teach the middle class. And Ray Dalio wouldn't give up his secret success formula. But, Tony Robbins is like, dude, you're 75 years old. Like, why don't you just share it with others? And so he actually shared it in that book. And you need 15 uncorrelated bets with an attractive array of assets that don't move in tandem. It'll reduce your risk by 80% and increase your risk-return ratio by a factor of 5. Now, for most people, they think that this is kind of a whole bunch of gobbledygook. And if I was in a live room, I'd say to someone, turn left, turn to your right, talk to someone about it. But what's quite important here is a couple of things. One is that the financial industry consistently makes stuff super complicated so that it overwhelms you. And you think to yourself, I don't know how to do this. I need to pay a financial advisor. And that's rubbish. Because all I want to do is take your money and take your fees. So all that this is actually saying is that you need 15 quality investments. 15 quality investments that don't move in tandem. That's all it's saying. You need 15 quality investments that don't move in tandem. That's all it's saying. If you do that, you'll reduce your risk by 80% and you'll increase your risk return by a factor of 5. So you'll reduce your risk by 80% and you'll increase your risk return ratio by a factor of 5. Now, I'm sure there's not many people here that wouldn't want to reduce their risk by 80% and increase their risk return ratio by a factor of 5. And to achieve that, all you've got to do is have 15 quality investments. So this is what he had to say in a TED Talk.
So what the individual investor needs to do is know how to diversify well. So the word that I would know how to diversify well and in a balanced way, to diversify it in asset classes, to diversify it in countries, to diversify it in currencies, to know how to diversify that well so that you have wealth diversification is important. Do not think that cash is a safe investment. Cash is almost always the worst investment. So you have to think about that. You should think a little bit unconventionally. Diversify well, be humble, don't market time, and be conscious of the dangers of cash.
So what did he say there? It's in the TED Talk. You can go look it up yourself if you want. But around the 26th minute, he said, the most important thing for an individual investor is to know how to diversify well and in a balanced way. You need to know how to diversify in assets, countries, and currencies. Knowing how to diversify your wealth is the most important thing. So what about number 2? You got the Vanguard Group. So the Vanguard Group manage over $8 trillion per year. And they basically said, according to a research paper that they did, the diversification can reduce risk of a portfolio by 70% while maintaining the same level of return. What about BlackRock? So BlackRock are the biggest money managers in the world. They manage over $8.6 trillion. And they said, according to a report found by them, investors who diversify across asset classes, regions, and sectors may experience better risk-adjusted returns over the long term. The report also notes that the benefits of diversification are so fundamental that they are some of the few things that investors can rely on with a confidence in a rapidly changing world. What about number 4? So this is Tony Robbins. And again, this book that I've already told you about, Money Master the Game, I found it fascinating in this book. He said 96% of active fund managers fail to outperform the market. So I could see some people whinging about their pensions. You give your money to the pension funds, And 96% of active managers don't even achieve what the average of the market. So they charge you their fees, and 96% of them have failed to achieve returns better than the market. What Tony Robbins had to say is diversification is essential. Asset allocation matters. Don't over diversify. So don't put yourself into hundreds or thousands of different mutual funds and all that sort of stuff. Seek expert advice, stay informed and be proactive, and automate your investments. Tap into the power of compounding. So those are the 6 things that Tony Robbins said. What about number 5? So this guy is Jim Rogers. My uncle actually got to meet him in 1987 in Botswana. And he actually retired at the age of 37. He was a US billionaire. And he rode all over the world. He holds the Guinness Book of Records for riding around the world. He now lives in Singapore. And he had a book called Investment Biker. And I've had lunch with him twice. And I took my book, Property Going Global. We shared books. And this was us pointing on a globe in his house as to, different places to invest in the world. And what did he say about diversification? Diversification is something that brokers came up with to protect themselves. So again, this is what he's talking about with mutual funds, where you just spray and pray and hope for the best. Long-term focus. Rogers emphasizes on long-term investment horizons and identifying opportunities that are undervalued or overlooked markets. And then skepticism of traditional diversification. Rogers has expressed skepticism of the efficacy of traditional. So again, just putting your money into the stock market and kind of spraying and praying. What about number 6? Richard Branson. So this is a bit more of a focus on the business side of things, but he said focus on your core strengths, have an entrepreneurial mindset and take calculated risks, and build a diversified business empire. What about number 7? So Dr. Dolph DeRoos, in his book, Real Estate Riches, I've already showed you some of these pictures with me paying my $8,000 to go, be on the ground with him in America and to learn how to buy houses on auctions. He said real estate is one of the best diversification tools. You want geographic diversification. You want different property types and strategies. You want risk management. And there's a great little video here I'll share with you that I actually recorded when I was in Phoenix with him around his thoughts on diversification. So just give me 2 seconds. Let me get you the video here.
You've traveled the world. You've been around the world 100 different times. I think you said the other night at the presentation we went to. The world's going global. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are. 10 years ago, property was very much a case of I lived in Phoenix, I bought a house in Phoenix. Right. I lived in Johannesburg, I bought a house in Johannesburg. And with the advent of the internet and access to information and cheap flights and all that sort of stuff, it's going global. The bottom line is people are interested in returns in different areas. You could get a far better, possibly a far better deal here, better yield, etc. So now suddenly, well, should I invest in Joburg? Should I invest here? Well, it actually comes down to numbers.
It does come down to the numbers. If you live in Joburg, I would say get your first investment property in Joburg. Probably get your second one there. You've got to cut your teeth on it. You've got to learn the ropes. You've got to learn what it takes to be a good investor. But if you've got 10 properties in Joburg and you're looking at buying an 11th, I, for one, would say don't buy it in Joburg. Buy it in Cape Town. Go to Port Elizabeth. Go to Durban. Go to anywhere else. And once you've got a few more, I would even say it's time to think about going global. And you South Africans know the answer to this better than most nationals of any country because you've suffered from the ravages of what can happen to the rand. And I'm from New Zealand originally. We had it there too. We had exchange rate controls. If you left the country, it might still be the law. If you left the country for more than 13 weeks, they stopped your social security payments and your pension and stuff because they didn't want anyone, heaven forbid, to spend their New Zealand dollars overseas. So you need to spread your risk a bit. And if you're going to spread your risk, why put it into a market where the currency's going down, where the population's in declining, where there's no growth? You are far better off investing in places where there is great growth. And I always say it is so easy to beat the average. The average growth rate long-term in this country for real estate is about 9.7%. But don't settle for 9.7. That's the average. That includes little cities that have shut down because they used to have a steel plant or a coal mining plant and they've shut down. They might have negative growth. So the 9.7 is the average. That means there are other places that have high growth. That's why, as we said before today, If you invest in Las Vegas or Phoenix, you will beat the national average by a wide margin just by picking those cities. So let's say we're talking about Phoenix. You don't even have to pick a house at random here, because there are suburbs that for decades have grown at faster than the average rate, and other suburbs that grow at less than the average rate. And these stats are easy to come by. You compare that to stocks or shares or whatever you call them. It's very hard to pick something, a market sector that has higher than average growth. They used to say it was technology stocks, and then we had the technology crash, and then they said it was bio, whatever, and then that crashed. It's very hard to pick, and it doesn't tend to have those trends for a long term, but real estate trends stick around for a long time. So yes, invest overseas to hedge your bets, and if you're going to invest overseas, why not pick a fast-growing market like Phoenix or Las Vegas?
So that's what Dr. Dolph DeRoos had to say around diversification. And let me get you the PowerPoint back up here. Okay, what about number 8? Robert Kiyosaki. So most people have heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He said focus on education and financial intelligence, cash flow over diversification, invest in what you know, be aware of the risks, alternative investments. So that's kind of away from the stock market and more in things like gold and silver and property, and he's more lately in crypto, etc. Right, what about number 9? Clem Sunter. So one of the top 5 strategists in the world. He says economic and business diversification, diversifying income sources or business activities can help mitigate risk and increase resilience. Long-term outlook. Sunter emphasizes taking long-term view when considering diversification. Considering of multiple scenarios. This approach enables individuals or organizations to prepare for uncertainties and adapt to changing circumstances. And collaboration and partnerships. Sunter often emphasizes the importance of collaboration and partnerships in diversification efforts. So it's all about diversification in terms of what Clem Sunter said. And then the final one, and that is number 10, and it's Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett says, and whenever I talk about diversification, people bring up Warren Buffett. He says diversification is protection against ignorance. It makes little sense when you know what you're doing. People are like, up there, you see, Warren Buffett says you shouldn't. Well, go and actually read the book Snowball, which is his book, and you'll see that if you go into more detail, he says what you need is concentrate investing. So again, you mustn't spray and pray and put it into 500 different things. As Ray Dalio says, it's literally 15 quality investments. You need to have your circle of competence. You need quality over quantity. You need a long-term perspective. You need risk management. And so those are the 5 things that they all say. Now, look at it. 10 people, 10 companies that you already know, like, and trust, and all of them are saying the same thing. What about their results? Well, Ray Dalio has managed $160 billion on average for 40 years, and he's achieved 21%. I mean, again, who here would like 21% in US dollars over 40 years? Well, it's pretty amazing. Okay, and the best part is he's told you how to do it. He literally said you need 15 quality assets that are not tied together. 15 quality assets that are not tied together. Vanguard. Well, Vanguard have achieved 9.8% annual return over the last 30 years. JP Morgan. Well, it's quite interesting. The average S&P, which is the top 500 companies, over the last 20 years has got a return of about 9.5%. The average investor, so the person that tries to do it on their own, has got 3.6%. What about all the major banks? So if you look here, this is something we go into with our family office. Every single month with our family office, we look at all the different assets and what they're doing, whether they're getting better or worse, whether they're growing, but what's interesting is you can see the patterns here of the different types of assets and whether they're going up or down. And it actually helps you make far better educated and informed decisions in terms of returns. But something I find really interesting is, according to Cambridge Associates, is private equity. So when people are asked, like, are you in private equity? And most people, whenever I do this, are like, nope, they're not in private equity, or they've never even heard of private equity. But if you look at private equity, the dark blue is the stock market and the light blue is private equity. And if you take it over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years, private equity has actually outperformed the stock market. And this one's even more stark in terms of reality, is that if you look at it on the left-hand side, you've got return. So down the bottom here, you've got low return, and at the top here, you've got high return. And at the bottom here, you've got risk. So over here on the left-hand side, you've got low risk, and on the right-hand side, you've got high risk. So what most people do, the balance that most people have with their portfolio is about 30% in bonds, 70% in stocks, and no private equity. And that means that they earn the lowest return and the highest risk. The lowest return and the highest risk. And by putting in just 20% of your portfolio into private equity, you now go into the lowest risk and the highest return. Don't you find that interesting? And how many of you are in private equity? Richard says, wow. So why I think this is important, if you take Wealth Migrate, and again, if you take the stock market on average over the last 25 years, the stock market's got, and the S&P again, has got about 8 to 9% return, and private equity's got about a 12% return, the blue. And you can see on the risk side, the stock market actually has higher risk than private equity. And yet we're all told to go in the stock market and not private equity. And just by the way, our average return over the last 10 years has been about 14%. So when one is doing a hypothesis back at university, would we and can we agree with the hypothesis that diversification equals financial success? Yes or no? I mean, we've looked at 10 of the sort of wealthiest and most successful people and companies. I've shown you not only what they say, but what their results are. And can we agree that this hypothesis, like I've cum laude both my honours degree and my master's degree, and for me, when you do a dissertation, this is the way you do it. So the second thing that I would say is, well, if we can agree that, what's standing in your way? And the myths that stop people, there's 5 myths that stop people. The first is that global investing is only for the wealthy. So they're like, I live in X country and I don't have enough money to be able to do this. Many people believe that global investing is only for the wealthy and requires a lot of money to get started. However, there are many low-cost options available to investors who want to diversify their portfolios globally. You know, as Kathy Wood said, don't underestimate the little guy who's changing investing. Equity crowdfunding is making private markets public. Charles Savage said, we think fractional investing represents the future. Retail investors used to be wrong, says Wall Street institutional trader Tiger Williams. Not anymore. Now you've got 50 million of them all tied together and they really matter. And this was actually came out the Wall Street Journal. He said the key advantage to digital platforms is the ability to access more deals and invest smaller sums. Unlike REITs, these platforms allow people to invest in particular buildings. And then Forbes said, these platforms do more than provide access to institutional quality deals. They excel at disseminating critical information investors need to read. And here's a little take on, thanks for having the $10 entry. Makes me feel like a property tycoon. Move over Gary Cardone, means Grant Cardone, or Trump. And I know Leisha's online, but this young gentleman was 13 when he did this challenge. And I always say, if he can do it for 5 days, then any of you can do it. And it's just amazing because, you know, Warren Buffett got started. Kai's here as well. Okay, well, Kai, wonderful, dude. I always love your story because it's so inspirational. And for me, you know, Warren Buffett got started at 13. And if they can get started and he can get started at 13, then so can you in terms of that process. Just my interest, who hasn't seen the Wealth Migrate platform where you can literally get started from $10. Because I just want to kind of show you that there are platforms out there that you can literally do this. So just type in the chat box there and tell me if you have not seen the Wealth Migrate platform. Okay, Ben says he hasn't. Okay, so let's just do this very quickly for Ben. I'm not going to do a proper demo today, Ben. I'll do that later in the week. But let me just show you very quickly how easy this is. So if I go to the Wealth Migrate platform and I sign in, so again, I'm not going to do a full demo, but for Ben's sake, and let's see who else. Okay, there's a couple. Oh, there's quite a few people that haven't seen it. Oh wow. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So let's just have a bit of fun. You can have your profile here. You can have in your own name. You can have an offshore company, trust, etc., etc. You can look at your entire portfolio. You can manage everything all in one place. You've got a digital wallet, so it's like your own wallet where you can literally go in and all your dividends and everything are all paid into your wallet, so you can manage, and you can manage your profile online, your KYC, all your information, etc. Now we've got 4 live deals at the moment. We've got one in London that's paying a 25% total return. We've got one in Austin that's got a 9.42% return. We've got one in Phoenix, Arizona, in America, with a 16% return, and we've got one in Germany with about a 16% return. So, considering we're playing Monopoly, do you want to invest in London, Austin, Phoenix, or Encore? And let me go back here quickly. Ben, you were the first one that answered the question. So where do you want to invest, Ben? Do you want to go in London, Austin, Phoenix, or Germany? So Ben says London. Great. So we go to London. You can go into the deal. You can read all about it. You can see the risks. You can download all the documentation. You can go read everything. You can watch the movies, the little videos. But now you decide you want to invest. You literally can do it from $10. You go continue. You digitally sign the agreements. You can download them if you want to. You go, I agree. You go make investment. And Ben, you've just seen me invest in London. Where else would you like to see me invest? Ben, let's go back to the marketplace. I've invested in London. Where else would you like me to invest? Anyone else? Anyone else? Alan says Germany. Ben says all of them. Okay, so we've done one in London. Let's do Germany quickly. I invest in Germany. I've got $10 in Germany. I digitally sign the agreement. I go, I agree. I go make investment. And I can see that I've just invested in Germany. And let's do one in America. I tell you what, I'm going to go with Phoenix. The nice thing with the property deals, you can also go and look at the investment calculator. So you can decide whatever amount of money you want to put in. It automatically works out everything in terms of your investments. You can see green is in your pocket, red are the fees. So there's complete transparency. So you can go, find everything you want. But again, you literally go, I want to invest from $10. You digitally sign the agreement. You go, I agree. You go make investment. You now go to your portfolio and you can see here that I've got a whole bunch of deals. So I've got my London deal. I've got my Phoenix deal. I've got my Germany deal. I've got my London. Oh, I made a mistake. I've done London twice. Tell you what, let me just cancel that investment and the money is automatically refunded in my wallet. I can see, oh, no, I've got Germany twice as well. Let me cancel that investment and I can, the money is refunded in my wallet. So I basically got, and I've got Air Baggett twice. So let me cancel that one and the money is put back in my wallet. So I'm only missing the Austin deal. So let's go back to Austin and I want to invest in Austin. And I literally go, I want to invest here. I digitally sign the agreement and I go, I agree. I go make investment. I go back to my portfolio and you can now see that I've got 4 pending investments. I've literally diversified and I've invested in London, in Germany, in Phoenix, America, and in Austin, America. I've invested in 4 different, so firstly, I've invested in 3 different countries, 3 different currencies, 4 different assets with 4 different partners and across 4 different timelines. So for those of you who haven't seen the Wild Migrate platform, can you now see that, it's possible? Everything I've just shown you with diversification, it's possible. Would you agree? Yes or no? I mean, Ben specifically, because you were the first, I'm just picking on you. But would you agree that it's possible? Everything that I've shown you today is possible. And like I joke, if Kai can do it, then you can do it. The second myth, investing in foreign markets is too risky. Some investors believe that investing in foreign markets is too risky because of the political instability or the currency fluctuations. While there's always some level of risk involved in investing, there are many ways to mitigate risk through diversification and careful research. So in my book, and I'm going to show you tomorrow, we've literally started investing in Australia in 2009, beginning of 2009. It was the best performing market for 2 years. We also invested in single family residential homes in Brisbane and Melbourne, which was the best performing asset class. And we invested in, as I told you already, Brisbane and Melbourne. That was the 2 best performing cities. In London, we started investing here. We stopped and we started investing again here in London. But America is where we got it right. We literally invested within 3 months of the bottom of the market. So if you can literally look, and again, if you get it right once, fair enough. In my book, I literally teach people how to do this. I created a 4-dimensional model with, so by the way, who would like a copy of the book? Just type in their book if you don't already have my book. And a good example of this is Michael Honeysett. In 2012, he wanted to invest in America. He came to a webinar just like you are on now. He was very nervous. He was very skeptical. It was like, sounds too good to be true. So he literally got on a plane and came on a buyer's trip with us. He spent about $5,000 to come on a buyer's trip. And it was interesting. This is him in America on a buyer's trip with us. And he started investing. He built up his passive income. And he literally said, when I joined, it was the best money I ever spent. And it would never have happened without me, if I tried to do it myself. And 20 years later, he's now, sorry, not 20 years later, 10 years later, because that was 2013. 10 years later, he's now living in income. Geez, I'm not speaking English. He's now living in England. He wanted a passive income for his daughters. He had a specific number in mind. He's now done that so that his daughters had the freedom to be able to live where they wanted, to be able to work where they wanted. And he's achieved that for his daughters. And so when people say it's not possible, it is. There's many, many people that have achieved it, over 4,000 people to date. Number 3, it's too difficult to invest in foreign markets. Investing in foreign markets may seem daunting to some investors, especially if they are not familiar with the language or the customs of the country. However, there are many resources available to help investors navigate the complexities of investing globally. I say to people, keep it simple. You need the right information and the right partners. And I already told you the story in Australia. Someone like Ryan came along and wanted to buy houses in Australia. We helped him buy 5 houses in 2009, 2010 in Australia. All of them 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single family homes. It's pretty much what mom and pop Australia wants. And a couple of years later, he sold those properties and he moved to the Gold Coast in Brisbane, and it gave him everything he wanted in terms of setting it up. So it's really possible if you get the right information and the right partners. Number 4, global investing is not necessary. Some investors may believe that they can achieve financial goals by investing in their own markets. However, by not diversifying their portfolios globally, they may miss out on potential opportunities for growth and may be more vulnerable to economic downturns in their home markets. And I always joke, some people think this is just a South African problem, or I don't know, an Argentinian or a Brazilian problem, but it's not. If you look at the American housing market in 2008, it lost 70% in some markets. Yes, you heard me correct, 70%. If you had all of your money in American property, you'd be feeling like a bit of a pawpaw. And so, and well done, Richard. I look forward to seeing you in the VIP. So, James Painter wrote the second chapter of my book and also Wealth Going Global, and he talks about the uncertainties of the stock market and where they're going, and it's all about trends. And what's really important with trends is that people always look at trends and they see trends going down like this, and they say, oh, it's a massive issue. But what you need to look at is the long term of supply and demand. And a good example of this was London. You know, in 2009, the market in London had crashed. It had lost about 20%. And yet we went and we bought 26 units in a place called Greenwich, which is one stop from Canary Wharf. Now, Canary Wharf is the financial capital of London. And this gentleman here, Don, bought 4 of them. And he bought them for £313,000 each. We managed to negotiate a 26% discount because, you know, times were tough then. And when the building finished, it was cash flow positive from day one. And in 2022, he sold each property for £1 million each. So he had cash flow positive properties for 10 years, and then he sold them each for £1 million. So that's the money went up 3 times. And people say, oh, it sounds too good to be true, Scott. And I go, well, no, not really. If you can spot the trends. So if you look here, there's $10.3 billion or £8.4 billion being invested in Greenwich, 17,500 homes, 84,000 square meters of commercial and retail, 20,000 square meters of cultural attractions. And so this is all about these long-term trends. And they also just put a tube stop in there. The Jubilee line had been put in, et cetera, et cetera. And so all of these things are down to trends and the basically in simple terms, getting the right information and the right partners. And number 5, I don't know how. Well, again, whether it's America, England, Europe, Australia, or South Africa, I've done it, for 20 plus years. But if I give you the example of how we got into America, so we knew the crash would happen in America, and I was like, right, I want to get into America. So I went there in 2010, and I literally left with a tail between my legs. I spent 5 weeks driving around America trying to find a good opportunity. But the Americans were so keen to sell. They were so desperate. And I couldn't find anyone that I could trust. So we went back in 2012. We went with a different strategy. We went to go and find the right partners on the ground. So we did 8 cities in 9 days. We flew from the West Coast, San Diego, right across to the East Coast, touching down in 8 different cities. And our primary objective was to get the right information and the right partners. You can see pictures from right across America as we flew, different cities, different looks and feels, houses, apartments, everything. Just trying to accumulate where is the right information, where are the right partners in terms of this process. We then came back to South Africa and we said, hey, we've done the research, we've got the information, we've got the partners. There's a significant opportunity in America. And at the time, the rand was sitting at 8.50 rand to the dollar. And, it's peaked over 20 rand since. And what I always find so fascinating is hundreds of people came to those breakfasts, thousands attended the webinars, and yet so few people actually took action. And about 400 people took action and bought houses. They came on buyers trips and bought houses in America. And what's so interesting is that they earned about an 8%, between 6 and 8% income return. And the properties they bought from anywhere from about $70,000, $80,000 to about $130,000. Today, those properties are selling for over $300,000. So, it just shows you the value of having the right information and the right partners. And that's where the formula comes from. You need to diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And it's all about getting passive income. So 4,000 other people can do it. Wealth protection, plan B, peace of mind, diversification, passive income, freedom, global citizen, empowering your children, immigration, ultimately living a life unlimited. Why can you not do it? We've helped people in 178 countries around the world do it. We've achieved the results already. And we've done it through 2 simple things: getting the right information and the right partners. And so I wanted to share with you a quick video. And for me, everything I've shared with you today is the why. Why is diversification so important? And for the next 4 days, we're going to go into the how, the what, the who, and the when. Is that fair? So today is all about the why. And then for the next 4 days, it's going to be the how, the what, the who, and the when. Now, I don't believe that any of this is worthwhile if you only hear it from me. It's so much better to hear from real people, real stories. And so I want to share with you a quick interview I did with Michael Honeysett, and then we're going to wrap up today, where I literally talked to him about his story, coming, not trusting us, being on a webinar just like you. By the way, if you don't trust us, so be it. Everyone else generally sits in that situation because it sounds too good to be true. And then, came on a buyer's trip with us and what it actually meant for him and his family. And while you listen to this, I strongly, strongly recommend that you are sitting there thinking to yourself, right, what would this mean to me? What would it mean to me in 10 years if I took this action and got the same results that Michael got? Because that's what I want you. This is not about Michael. This is about you and you achieving your results. And so over to Michael. So Michael, just tell us your story. It was 10 years ago, or probably quite a lot longer before that you were like, hey, I need to do something. I want to, I've got a business locally, but I want to kind of invest internationally, etc. Just talk us through your journey of like how you got to that mental decision that you wanted to do something.
Well, I did actually, I tried to do it by myself, but I mean, you actually said most of what I was going to say in your presentation, but I can only enforce what you said. I tried by doing myself. I actually went and saw a financial advisor in this country, and I just wanted more. So I actually found you through, you already mentioned in Neil Peterson's magazine. You had an advert there, and I made contact. And then that's where it all started. But I did watch you for about a year because at the time, as you always know, as I didn't trust people at the time, so I was very scared. So I did talk to Kristen. I did make contact with her. And that's where we started with the connection between me and Wealth Migrate.
Tell me, Michael, why did you want to invest overseas? What were your reasons? And again, this is not based on any one country because most people, no matter where they are trying to figure out how to do something out of it in another country, but it's actually very scary and very overwhelming.
100%. Well, I actually, the problem is I watch your webinars all the time. I'm always one of your participants watching you. And one of the things you do as a presentation is the value of the rand is just devalued radically since 1975. And I just wanted to diversify into something better than the rand. And at the time that I made contact with you, the United States was the opportunity.
And tell me, why did you choose to get on a plane and fly over? I mean, again, it wasn't just your time that it took. You had to invest money to even just come on the buyer's trip, etc. Why did you do it? What were you trying to achieve?
Well, again, as I said, I wanted to diversify from rands into a foreign currency, being anything dollar, pound, euro, whatever's available at the time. And then I ended up speaking to you. And you gave me that information at the time because I know you had done a trip to the United States, which you've already mentioned. And you had already done, you had flown all over the place and done a lot of investigation as to which states were the landlord friendly and which were tenant friendly. And you said to me at the time that the United States was definitely the opportunity, which is why I decided to come and book and come with you on a buyer's trip to have a look for myself, and also the other factors that I wanted to go along to make sure that I could trust you.
Yeah. 10 years ago, feels like a lifetime ago now, in terms of having to get on an airplane and fly over there and everything else. And, when you got on the ground and kind of you saw what was happening on the ground, and in many ways you could simplify it down to information and partners, what did you find there basically? What did you like about it?
Well, first of all, the number one reason, the first thing I found was the fact that I could trust you. You weren't taking me on a fly-by-night. You showed me exactly what was going on in the United States at the moment. Because, you know, we went to 4 different cities at the time. And you showed us all the different opportunities at the time. And we actually also met all the accountants, the lawyers, the different people that were looking after the properties. And also the fact is that you were a team, and your team and you had gone across and done all the investigations. I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was listen to you.
And tell me, in terms of, you know, you started in residential, and then you evolved into commercial, and then you evolved into other countries as well. You know, in terms of, you know, if you look back over the last 10 years, what are the sort of the results? Because, you know, one of the things I've always appreciated about you, and where most people don't have it, by the way, and ironically, it's why it's the very first thing on the sheet. You know, what are your whys? Why do you want this? You know, because when someone gets clear on their whys, they're going to be far more committed to making it the reality. And I've got a gift that I'm going to share with everyone at the end. My point being is that you were very, very clear on your whys, you know, and why you wanted to achieve what you want to achieve. And now, how's it been for you over the last 10 years in terms of actually looking to achieve those results?
Yes, I have definitely achieved the results. I mean, the opportunities I had in 2013 when I came with you on the buyer's trip, it's now nearly 11 years that I've been associated with you. It's certainly paid dividends, there's no doubt about it. And my why was to have a passive income, being in a foreign currency, being in whatever is available at the time, and dollars that was available at the time when I invested. And when I actually bought in 2013, I changed the 9.1 Rand to $1. So you can see what's happened in the last 11 years that I've been associated with the Rand. And that was my goal, was to get a passive income in a foreign currency. And it didn't make any difference from where I was in the world. I had something that I could live on.
Yeah. And what do you think the consequences would have been if you hadn't have done it? You know, like, so I always find it fascinating, you know, those events we did, and I showed pictures there, you know, they were live events, we did webinars. And I mean, thousands of people attended those live events and webinars, and yet only a couple of hundred actually took action. What would have been your consequences for you, let's call it 10 years later, if you hadn't have done something?
Well, my drive was basically just to, I didn't believe in the Rand. Unfortunately, I still don't. And my drive was to find something. I always believed in property. I went on your website. I saw the opportunity from you, because at the time you were doing a lot in Australia. And that's why I ended up speaking to Kristen before I spoke to you. And I always wanted to change my money. I had changed money, and I did have investments in the Channel Islands in pounds. But as you know, banks don't give you a huge return, and I wanted something better.
I was actually going to sort of allude to that, because most people that I've met over the years, when they think diversification, they've set up a bank account on the Isle of Man or somewhere, and they're getting, 0.1% or whatever in basically no return. And you know, what other products or had you tried anything to try diversify before that? Basically, you know, you mentioned you've gone to see a financial advisor or whatever. You know, most people have tried to do something. Like, what else had you tried? Like,
well, the financial advisor gave me advice, but everything was localized, and he was only looking at investments in this country. And as I keep alluding to, the fact is that the Rand, if you look in 2013, and it's now we're talking about 11 years later, at 9.1 to what we are now, it's just phenomenal what it's done. How it's devalued and how I've gained by earning dollars.
Yeah, just by the way, it's not only a South African thing. You know, as part of our mastermind now, we've got English members, we've got German members, we've got Italian members, Australia, New Zealand. Because I think a lot of people realize that, like, to have all your eggs in one basket is a risky strategy, full stop. You know, I mean, you're not only in America, you're also in England, You're currently moving the family to England. I mean, talk us through the feeling of what I like to refer to as a global citizen. So that's where someone can make a decision and say, hey, I want to live here, or whatever. And both your assets plus your income allow you to make those decisions. But I mean, talk us through that, because you're now in a place to be able to make those decisions,
Well, the properties that I purchased in 2013 in America has definitely appreciated in value, and it gave me a passive income. And I've always said capital gain to me was always a bonus. It wasn't part and parcel of my goal of actually investing, because I was looking for the passive income, not the capital gain. I have invested with you in the United Kingdom. I'm earning, but it's obviously in dollars. So that has given me an income as well. So it's wonderful to be able to go to the United Kingdom, go and get a passive income into your bank account monthly, and being able to do what you want.
Yeah, and I mean, in your case, I always remember you were so clear about your daughters, and obviously they've grown up over the last 10 years, but you now got the ability to provide them the opportunities that you wanted. And that's what I always talk about when it comes to freedom of choice, because that, in my opinion, that's a lot more tangible than money. Like, it gives me goosebumps talking about it, because, they're in their early 20s now, mid 20s, whatever. But because you made decisions 10, 11 years ago, you've got the ability to give them the ability to make decisions, etc. And I mean, just talk to us about that feeling as a parent.
Well, that feeling as a parent is probably the best possible place to be, because that's what you want to do, is to give your children the best opportunity and be able to go anywhere in the world and do anything you like. And please don't I'm not putting South Africa down. It's a fantastic place. I enjoy it, and I was born here, so I had no reason to go. But I just see there's more opportunity in United Kingdom at the moment, and jobs are abundant in the United Kingdom. South Africa, unfortunately, doesn't have that ability.
No, completely. I mean, my last question, just in terms of, I always laugh with you because, you and I had a arm wrestle as to, how much money you were going to pay to come on that buyer's trip. And I do remember, it was quite a funny thing, but in those days, it was like 20,000 Rand, which is like $2,000. And I remember Michael going like, well, I can't afford to pay the 20,000 Rand. And I was like, this dude, we're going to buy houses. Like, I think we might have a serious mismatch here. But as we got to know each other over the years, you just said, look, I really don't trust you, and I wanted to limit my downside. What would you and again, you're not giving financial advice, but just from your personal experience, for those people that are sitting on the fence, saying it sounds too good to be true, whatever, you were there basically, and yet you took a leap of faith, albeit you did more due diligence and whatever, and I'm not disputing anyone shouldn't do that. But, you went out and you got the right information, you got the right partners. What would you advise to someone who's sitting here, whatever, and not quite sure what to do next?
Well, procrastination is probably the worst possible thing you should have, okay? Because, yes, you do sit on the fence, and you can sit like that for 10 years or whatever time period you choose. And but you have to take that step, right? And my problem is, as you know, is that we deliberated that amount of money that you wanted me to pay to go across the United States. And I didn't know if I was going to lose the money, and I don't know if what you're going to show me was what I wanted and it was legitimate. I had no idea. So it was only that when I met you in Joburg and we got on the airplane, we went across and had a look, then obviously I believed you here.
Well, Michael, to yourself, thanks very much for jumping on. I really, really appreciate it. To yourself and Lee have become good friends over the years, and it's really, I deeply, deeply appreciate you coming and sharing your experience. And why I appreciate you sharing it is, I call it real people, real stories. And what a lot of people do is they'll put me on a pedestal, or they'll put Ray Dalio on a pedestal and go, oh, but it's easy for you, you can do it. I started with nothing. I have no silver spoon from my dad. So, and let's talk to someone else that and again, I'm going to say started with nothing, because in 2012, you hadn't started yet, and yet 10 years later. And I just deeply appreciate you sharing that. And by the way, it hasn't gone well. Like I know that some of the tenants didn't pay the rent sometimes, and you had a fire one time, whatever. So like anyone that thinks that it's like hunky dory and everything works, like has never been an investor. It's that simple. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But you know, again, if you've got a good partner on the ground, they'll help you fix the problems. You know, so you know, please understand that there's no such thing as Michael sitting here and going, "Oh, it was perfect and nothing went wrong," because that's just not how it works. But I do like to resonate with your story so that others can go, well, if they can do it, like I can do it. You know what I mean? And whether you want to do it with us or not, I actually don't care. But like copy what you're hearing here. And I think the number one thing that differentiated you from so many other people is that you took action. You were running a busy company, but you took time out of that to plan for your future self, you and your family. And you know, it's allowed you those choices 10 years plus later. So just well done, dude. You know, thank you for your time and congratulations.
Scott, all I can do is actually say thank you very much to Wealth Migrate for giving me the opportunity that I had in 2013. And I'm so glad that I followed through and did come through with you to the United States and have a look at the opportunities. You spoke about the medical centers. I've been part of that journey as well. So yeah, I've done very well. But also Wealth Migrate, it's an incredible team that you've got. You know, every time you want information, it's ready to be available. You can phone anybody. They talk to you. They answer your emails. So, you know, you're a business that is actually available for anybody that invests and to get all the information that is required. And yeah, it's been wonderful that we've become friends. And to me, you being at the helm of the Wealth Migrate, it can only go from strength to strength.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I deeply appreciate it. And yeah, I think just two questions here from everyone else. Taffy's asking whether you are related to Trevor Honeysett.
I am, yes.
And I know Taffy's in Durban as well. And Lynn's asking, what type of return on investments have you realized? So obviously it's a broad brush question, but what on average, basically?
Around about 11.5%, 12% in US dollars.
Yeah. And I think that's also broken down into probably roughly 6 to 8% in income and you know 4 to 5% in capital growth. Just, you know, again, different investments differing.
Correct.
Yeah, just in terms of,
it's been a 10-year term, and as you said, there has been problems, but generally it's been reasonable, you know, and it's been a lot better than what I would have got in the bank here in South Africa or in the bank in Channel Islands.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. Wonderful to have you online, and yeah, I hope that everyone else has resonated with your story and taken away their own tidbits. You know, if Michael can do it, then so can you, and it all starts by making a decision.
Well, the people are sitting on the fence and they're procrastinating. Believe me, you've got to take a stance and you just got to move ahead and do something about it. And you'll see the benefit in like I have in 11 years' time.
Yeah. Awesome, Michael. You're a star, mate. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Cheers, brother. So I hope you enjoyed that. Real people, real stories. You know, I shared with you a story, but there's nothing better coming from his mouth. And as you said, it was the best money he ever spent and would never have happened if he tried it himself. I am, you know, unfortunately with the audio, when I interview someone, I can't do anything about the quality of their internet speed. So apologies to the, you know, to people that was talking about the audio. But yeah, hopefully you can still mainly get the essence of what he was trying to say. And I think it's really, really important. There was a comment that came through. Christelle said, fortunately, we don't have to get on a plane to have access, as the Wealth Migrate platform provides a huge opportunity to us all to have access to the knowledge and experiences. Yeah, so I think that's exactly Christelle. You know, 10 years ago, the only way to do it was to get, 11 years, whatever it was to get on a plane and fly overseas with me. You know, come to America, come to England, come to Australia, and you need $100,000 plus to invest. Now you don't need that. You know, now because of the platform, you can literally invest and get started, which is fantastic. So I did start, and I told you about Jordan, and 55-year-old age, high net worth, worked all his life, wanted to build a portfolio to preserve his wealth. I said he wanted a passive income. of 5K, 10K, 25K, simply and safely. You want to diversify across countries, currencies, and assets. You want to use his limited time to get effective results with predictability. You want to save decades of frustration and millions of dollars to get the right knowledge for him and his family. You wanted wealth protection, plan B, and peace of mind. You want to be able to accountable with an accountability partner to get results. You want to have a family office to be able to help him with his financial affairs. I'll explain all about that on Wednesday. You want to have generational wealth for his family. You want to have a fully, executed wealth plan. And he wanted to get results. And hopefully today, I've shown you people that are literally doing this and have done it. And if they can do it, you can do it. I showed you Victoria, a 50-year-old, in her 50s, devoted to family and business, aiming to build generational wealth. Time is a massive insight and problem for her. And so she needed a streamlined investment strategy that empowered her to make wise decisions to align with her goals and frees up her time for her grandchildren and her daughters. She wanted to understand the investment landscape. She was tired of being told by the financial industry what to do. So she wanted to feel empowered to make the right decisions for herself and her family. And she wanted to achieve financial freedom, to cherish more moments with her loved ones. And so if they can do it, you can do it. So what are your action steps for today? And literally, you've got your silver, which I remind you is compulsory, and your gold, which is a bonus. And today's a nice, simple one. Literally, for your silver, identify and list the risks associated with not diversifying. So we've been through all the benefits of diversifying, but what are some of the risks that you might have if you don't diversify? Write down what is stopping you from diversifying. So I've told you the 5 main reasons that people don't diversify. Well, what's stopping you from diversifying? And then on the investor strategy sheet, which hopefully you've all now printed or at least downloaded, fill in your 5 whys. Why is diversifying important for you? And Namondo, I know you said fear, so just take some time. It's only going to take you 15 to 20 minutes. Write down and ponder. Why? What are the risks if you don't diversify? What is stopping you from diversifying? And why would it be important for you to diversify? And then share one key takeaway with the Wealth University group. So if you look here, I've created a group for you. So it's if you literally go to the Wealth University, it's right at the top. It's day 1, and it's literally January 2025. It's the Diversification Challenge. You can see here, what are some of the key takeaways? What are the action steps? Everything's here. And then you can go to the bottom here and you can add your key takeaways. So this is where you do your homework. And Christelle, thank you for putting it in. Mindset, money is committed, etc. Brilliant. But if you actually write it here, then it can live and other people can go and read it. And I can read it tonight and I can see what everyone's homework is. But basically what I would recommend is this is where you put your homework in and everything so that you've got everything in one place. And then it's also where I can give out the prizes. Okay. So, and then the gold is create a list of your assets and investments you currently hold, if any, and identify if there's any concentration of risk. So do you have all your eggs in one basket? And I remind you of the Next Steps Navigator. If you want to go to this link, it can literally help you. Over the next week, we'll give you more detail on this, but it'll help you in terms of the next steps. And I do remind you of the competition. So anyone that posts stuff in that community group, so again, over here, anyone who posts stuff here, we will be running a competition for the people that, there's always prizes for people that do it. And the prize tomorrow will be an upgrade to the VIP. So come and join us in terms of the VIP. And Pam, no issue. I'm literally wrapping up. If you've really enjoyed the session and you'd like to come and spend some more time with me, I'm going to sit down now with the VIPs and answer any questions that they've got. This is the value you'll get. I mean, it's over $8,000 worth of value. You'll get it for $47, a bit of a no-brainer. And you'll literally get access to me for the whole week now in the VIP session. Plus, also, you will get the recordings in terms of the process. So, it's a great return on investment in terms of where we're at. And if you have already joined the VIP and you've got any challenges, just type in there if you need to speak to Alex, because I know Alex is supporting, but you can literally just also email support@wealthuniversity.org. There is a WhatsApp group that you will join, and then we'll just put the link in the WhatsApp group so that you can join the group. For Ruby, if you want to join the group, you literally go to diversificationchallenge.com/VIP upgrade, and it'll automatically upgrade. I know, Alex, you put the link in there, but maybe if you can just put it again for Ruby to make it easy in terms of that process. I do recommend that you join the general WhatsApp group and that you also join the Wealth University community so that you can really kind of get the benefit of this full week. And I want to wrap up with some closing thoughts. Diversification, it's critically important that you diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And it's all about building globally diversified passive income. As Albert Einstein says, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. You know, if in 2024 your New Year's resolution was, hey, I'm going to invest, I'm going to diversify, and you didn't do it, and it was the same in 2023, and the same in 2022, and the same in 2021, then do something different in terms of that process. And the challenge is that most people want to do something, but they don't know how to do it. So today I've shared with you the why, but over the next couple of days, I'm going to share with you how to do it. Is that fair? So the problem with training is that there's no accountability, no monitoring, short-term feel good, failure to implement, lose focus and effectiveness as it's passed down. And what then? Well, most often you go and do another course, or you blame me, you blame the course, you blame the book, because you don't get the results. And so what's critically important, if you take any learning skill, if you take time management, wealth, anything, you're going to learn something, you're going to improve, like I've already shown you, and you're going to fall off. But at least you're better than where you were. And what is the only way to keep doing this over and over again? It's repetition. Repetition is the mother of skill. You need to do something over and over again, whether it's riding a bike, whether it's learning to walk, whether it's driving a car. It's the same pattern over and over again. You need to repeat it over and over again. And that's why I'll talk more about this tomorrow and on Wednesday. That's why we've got digital courses, digital home study courses like Wealth Going Global. We've got the Wealth Hackers to help you do it over and over again. And what's the plan? Well, just imagine a year from now. Imagine by the end of this year, if every month you were working on your countries, your currencies, your assets, your partners, your time and your time management, your mindset and your strategic thinking, your execution and your accountability, and your investing and your review. Imagine where your life would be. And so, what is the plan for day 2, 3, 4, and 5? Specifically, how to get and use the information I've already showed you. How to build a globally diversified portfolio. How to find the right partners. How to manage risk. And how to bring it all together and to build a wealth plan and an investor strategy report to help you achieve globally diversified passive income. So, I've shown you the why, and over the next couple of days, I'll show you the how, the what, the who, and the when. Is that fair? Let's finish off with taking some action and learning from the great man Nelson Mandela, where he said, money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. Money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. If you want to join us in the VIP, literally click on the link. If you've got any problems, reach out to support. We will be putting the link now. Alex will be putting the link into the WhatsApp group. If anyone's got a problem and they're part of the VIP, so whether you're a mastermind member or a wealth hacker, we will post the link in both the mastermind group and in the wealth hacker group, just in case you don't have it. Marie, I will send it to you as well because I invited you personally to the VIP room. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Don't be a dabbler. The dabblers don't turn up. The stressors and the masters are the ones that need to kind of go the long haul and stay the route. But most importantly, I want to thank you for your time. It's always an honor and a privilege to share. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and we get into the nuts and bolts. Today we've been through the why. Now it's time to get into the how, the what, the when, and to have an action plan so that we can help you get results. To the VIPs, I look forward to seeing you in the room. Let's go and learn from each other. Let's go and have a proper chat. I always find that people sometimes get overwhelmed by the information. I can actually help you. I can take you through it. If you've got blockages, whether they're mental or something, I'm a qualified coach, so I can actually take you through them. But most importantly, I can give you insights and clarity into everything we've been through today, and we'll be doing that every day afterwards. So thanks everyone for your time. I appreciate it a lot. And to the VIPs, I will see you in the VIP room in a couple of minutes. Just give me a little bit of time. I want to run to the toilet, and I'll see you in the VIP room. Cool, man. Cheers, cheers.